Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome all of you on KRKO 1380 AM radio and all of you here at Evergreen Speedway. This is Scott Ellsworth, along with Terry Buell and Gary Cressy from Redding, California. And down pit side, we've got Kelly Hart and Ron Bennett to handle all the things that are going to happen here this evening for the Valvoline 100. The NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour automobiles have gridded up on the front stretch. Gary Cressy, a little bit earlier, we had a qualifying session and a track record was set.
Absolutely, and that was Garrett Evans, and of course we're inverting 6 here, so he will start in the outside third row in the 6th position. An 8-time winner. He won the first 8 races when we kicked the season off right here at Evergreen. Last year, Toby Butler, now back east, was the winner, but he is 8 out of 9, and now we start our 10th season for the NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour, and it looks like a tremendous field of cars. We have 36 on the grid at this time.
Unbelievable turnout of cars here for the opener. The thing I think that's the big story here is maybe we're having a turnover in people that run on the NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour. As you said, Toby's moved back east. A few other drivers have given up the ghost, but we've got 8 rookies here for the first running of the Valvoline 100 for 94.
All 8 of those rookies, of course, running for the coveted Rookie of the Year. So many of them that have won that are now doing other type of racing throughout the entire United States. Chad Little, a former Rookie of the Year, now running in the Busch Grand National, also a part-time Winston Cup driver. And we have a tremendous field of cars, some veterans sprinkled in, and of course Dan Press is here, the 25 car, a former Southwest Tour champion. He'll sit 4th on the field after a beautiful run. We had 2 of them break the track record, but it's just absolutely shattered by the fellow now calling Ardenvor, Washington, his home, formerly of East Wenatchee, and that's Garrett Evans.
And, of course, the former champion of 2 years ago, Dirk Stevens, now running on the Busch Grand National circuit, had a great run today at Darlington, the first rookie to ever finish in the top 20. He finished 20th today at Darlington in the Busch Grand National race on major television. So this is a major stepping stone for some of these drivers here that have aspirations to move on and upward in the field of auto racing. Well, in just a moment, we'll get the word from NASCAR officials when we can announce the grid, and a great field it is. But let's go on down trackside. Ron Bennett.
Standing here with Ron Eaton. Ron, a brand new race car, a completely new look for 1994.
Yeah, this is a brand new chassis. We bought it a year ago, and we finally got it put together, and this is the first time it's ever seen a racetrack.
Speedstacker, the sponsor on this car, they wanted white, huh?
Yeah, their colors are red, white, and black, and that's what we had to go with.
Okay, Ron Eaton fans, you're going to have to change your allegiance in colors. It's going to be white and red. Ron Eaton, Tacoma, Washington.
Well, Ron Eaton with those new colors, and it will be some handling on our part up here because we're sure not used to seeing the number 7 run around with those colors. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've been given the word from NASCAR officials to start with our grid.
And they're saying hold up just momentarily as they were finishing up with the scoring on that, Scott, and also making sure that all the crews will be clearing the area as we get to go.
Okay, well, we are given the word to go ahead and start the Okay, well, we'll just wait. Okay. And let's go down to Kelly Hart as we get sorted out up here.
Oh, okay. Well, I just told Kirk that we weren't going to talk to him, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. Kirk Rogers is the defending NASCAR Northwest Tour champion. And, Kirk, what's it going to take to move the 99 car through those other 9 guys in front of you?
Well, we got to be very patient right at the beginning and save the tires and just be real careful, watch out for everybody else. We'll be there at the end.
Does the coolness of the night give you any kind of jitters? Will the car be any more sticky or any less?
No, I don't think so. I think that'll save the tires and help everybody keep the cars under them.
All right, that's Kirk Rogers from Spokane in the 99 car.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is your grid for the Valvoline 100. Starting from the back row, working forward. He hails out of Richland, Washington. The Pointers Motor Supply Chevrolet Lumina, the number 75, Rick Pointer. We move up to the outside of that next row. He's wearing the number 12 out of Edmonds, Washington, Mark Bold.
And Scott, inside of row number 18, he'll start 35th on the field with all sorts of problems qualifying in the Yakima Insulation Cope Brothers Pontiac. From Spanaway, Washington, the 10 car, Ernie Cope.
On the outside of row number 17, out of Olympia, Washington, the Butterton Racing Pontiac, the number 97, Dave Butterton.
Inside David with the Puget Sound Marketing Ford Thunderbird from Redmond, number 20, Lee Daly.
Outside of row number 16, the Anacortes entry, the Frontier Ford-sponsored Ford Thunderbird, the 32 of Gary Funk.
In the 31st spot, he drives the Frank & Sons Auto Body Oldsmobile from Pasco, Washington, 27, Ken Bailey.
Outside of row number 15, 30th on the field, he hails out of Richland, Washington, the Pennzoil Super Loop Buick Regal, the number 28, Greg Walden.
And the 15th row starting on the inside, in the Fairmont Hot Springs Resort Chevrolet Aluminum from Golden, British Columbia, the 80 car, Troy Vandenbelch.
Starting on the outside of row number 14, 28 on the field. Out of New Westminster, British Columbia, sponsored by Tireland, the Chevrolet Camaro being driven by Barry White.
Inside of Barry White, the Pacific Delivery Service Chevrolet Lumina from Bellevue, Washington, 04, Chris Cunningham.
Outside of row number 13, the Arches Restaurant Chevrolet Lumina out of Spanaway, Washington, the 09 to Darrell George.
Inside in the Conoco Chevrolet Lumina from Kennewick, Washington, the 19 car, Don Malbeck.
Moving on up in the field on the outside of row number 12. Out of Yakima, Washington, the Yakima Insulation Oldsmobile, the number 22, Lou Miller.
Making his first start on a track this large in the H&H Logging Decamp Racing Chevrolet Lumina, the rookie from Roseburg, Oregon, 61, Tony Morrison.
Starting on the outside of row number 11. Out of Woodinville, Washington, the Fink Racing looking for sponsors, Oldsmobile, the number 58, Jerry Fink.
21st on the field in the Rainbow RV Chevrolet Lumina from Mount Vernon, Washington, 55, Ed Watson.
Starting 20th on the field outside of row number 13 will be the number 13 out of Montesino, Washington, former national champion of the quarter-mile drag racers, the Oldsmobile Cutlass, the number 13 of Earl Whiting.
Another rookie starts on the inside of row number 10 in the number 82 from Myrtle Point, Oregon, the W&L Contractors Oldsmobile, Bill Hittner.
As we move up to the outside of row number 9, 18th on the field. He wears the number 81 out of Burien, Washington, the Rebels Towing Chevrolet Lumina, Martin Rossler.
Inside of row number 9 from Kalanwa, British Columbia, in the Alec Building Supply Buick Regal, 21, Bill Lawrence.
16th on the field, the 1993 Rookie of the Year for this division, the Transmission Plus Chevrolet Lumina out of Aberdeen, Washington, the number 11, Tom Sweatman.
Inside in car number 36 in the Painter Logging Chevrolet Lumina from Eatonville, Washington, 36 car, Steve Olson.
As we move up in the field, 14th on the field, a rookie this year. He hails out of Kennewick, Washington, the Riverside Auto Body Chevrolet Lumina, the number 2 of Mike Kelly.
And starting 13th on the field in the KRKO Radio, Wagner Larson Carlson Racing Lumina from Linwood, Washington, 3 car, Ken McMahon.
Having a great qualifying session after working on the car all afternoon long. He's a rookie out of Ellensburg, the Ciela Trailer Sales Chevrolet Camaro, the number 52, Chad Bennett.
Inside of row number 6, 11th on the grid, in car number 78 from Seattle, Washington, Joe Constance.
As we move up to the outside of row number 5, 10th on the field. He is a former champion of this series. He's won many races at this racetrack, but he's gone dry for a couple of years. But today, that car is handling very well. The Spieshecker Chevrolet Lumina out of Tacoma, Washington, the number 7, Ron Eaton.
Inside of the veteran Ron Eaton in the Eddie Miles Company Chevrolet Lumina from Maple Valley, California, 26, Bob Kerslake.
As we move up to the outside of row number 4, 8 on the field, the 1993 champion of the NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour. He sat on the pole at Phoenix International Raceway. The Monaco Enterprises Chevrolet Lumina out of Spokane, Washington, the number 99, Kirk Rogers.
And inside of Kirk in the Central Oil Chevrolet Lumina, he's hurrying from Surrey, British Columbia, 39 car, Pete Harding.
As we move up to the outside of row number 3, he was fast car of the afternoon, set a new track record. He hails out of Ardenvore, Washington, the Yakima Insulation Buick, the number 64, Garrett Evans.
And our 5th starter in the Yoshida's Sauces along with the Lacra Cookies and Pacific Services Chevrolet Lumina from Woodinville, Washington, 65, Kelly Tanner.
Moving on up in the field, outside of row number 2. He'll start 4th on the field, former Southwest Tour champion. in the top 10 in all-time money won in the All-American Challenge Series. He hails out of Vader, Washington. The Sierra Moles, number 25, the Vader Raider, Dan Press.
Second row inside, third on the grid in the Lawnmower Shop, Pastimes Pontiac Firebird. The driver hails from Bothell, Washington, 73, Gary Lewis.
Moving up to the outside of row number 1, also a rookie. He only had a couple of races under his belt last season. The J&S Racing Products Chevrolet Lumina out of Vancouver, Washington, the number 16, Greg Biffle.
And on the pole for the Valvoline 100 in the Okanagan Seattle Transport Chevrolet Lumina from Ellensburg, Washington, 90, Mel Shenier, your field for the Valvoline 100.
Oh, what a field it is. And we'll wait for word from NASCAR officials to make sure everybody is buttoned in. And then we're going to go down trackside with Kelly Hart. And Kelly's going to lead all of us in the gentlemen start your engines. And we'll wait for that word from NASCAR officials in just a moment. And we're getting that word. Now let's go down to Kelly Hart.
I'm lost.
Kelly, we need you to start.
Yeah, I know. Well, what we're going to do here, and I have to run to do this too. Can you believe it? Probably people haven't seen me run in about 10 years. Here he comes.
Nice little hurdle there, Kelly. Way to move on.
I'm not going to do this one.
Okay.
All right, we need some help from the general audience. On the count of 3, gentlemen, start your engines. 1, 2, 3.
Aurora 36 gets set to go. As Kelly with a long run, I should say, almost a wrong run.
And Kelly, all the way across the pits there, we caught him a little bit by surprise. He was getting ready to cover pit road, and we would like to thank Kelly and Ron Bennett. They're doing all the yeoman's work. We're standing up here where it's nice and warm. They're down there where it's a little bit cool. That could be come into play. Terry Buell also standing in the booth with us. Terry, you're a former race driver. What happens with the cold tires here? They're going to take a little while to get some heat into these tires. The temperature's dropping quite rapidly out here at the racetrack.
Well, just a short while, but once they get up to temperature and they get a few laps on them, then it shouldn't be a problem at all.
That first lap, though, a little antsy. You're wondering whether or not you've got the tires enough heat in them to head off towards turn number 1 at full bore.
Perhaps a little tentative, but I'm sure they're able to handle it just fine.
All right, well, as you can hear, the engines have roared to life down here on the front stretch, and in just a moment, we will get these cars rolling. We'll give them about 3 or 4 laps to get these tires and engines warmed up. So we'll go ahead and we'll take this break. You're listening to live auto racing here from Evergreen Speedway, the Valvoline 100 on KRKO 1380.
And now, more from the Valvoline 100 NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour at the Evergreen Speedway in Monroe on Good Time Oldies, KRKO.
Well, thank you very much, and we are back here live at Evergreen Speedway, both here on the PA system and at KRKO Radio. And we get the word from NASCAR officials that we got 4 laps before we get the green flag, so they're taking the cars around and making sure that these tires and engines get back up to operating temperature before we let them go. 36 cars here, Gary Cressy. A great field it is. And I'll tell you what, some of the guys that are sitting at the back of the field had some problems in the qualifying session, but they're going to have an awful lot of traffic and some good cars to get up through to get up to the front part of this field.
Actually, you're right. Starting as far back as 16th on the field, Tom Sweatman, the Rookie of the Year, he should fly from there. We want to watch also Ernie Cope has all the problems as he starts almost dead last on the field.
Well, we haven't had a chance to even chronicle those problems. He came out to qualify, and all of a sudden the car wouldn't fire it up. So they put it back in line. They thought they had that problem solved. Came out to qualify again, the car wouldn't shift. So then they brought it back, and they brought it back in again. And then he comes out, goes into turn number 3. The brakes lock up, and he hits the turn 3 wall. So then they go in, they thrash on the car again. They finally get it out to qualify, but basically it was just also ran just so they made sure they made the field about 24 seconds. Hopefully, and we'll find out from Ron Bennett here shortly because he's been keeping an eye on that situation. Ron, can you tell us, have they solved the problems?
Yes, they have. Roy Otis, who used to work on Butch Miller's car. He was the crew chief on that in ASA. They worked very, very hard on that car. That car of Ernie Copes is the only car in the field on Hoosier tires. He says when he was planning on qualifying better, he'll come on about lap 40. He said, look for me to lead this thing at 60. He's going to have to really punish those tires, though, to make it up through that field.
Boy, you're right about that. Whoa, boy, 36 cars to move on up through to get up to the front of this field. And, yeah, those Hoosier tires are going to really have to stand up strong.
I would actually think that he thought he was going to start about 10th if he was going to go to the front. That's a long way to go, but he'll have a long time to heat him up as long as he can stay ahead, because we got some quick ones out front. We inverted the top 6 with 2 of them breaking the track record tonight, something that we did not know would happen, but on a beautiful Pacific Northwest Saturday afternoon for the opening of the 1994 season here at the Center of Speed, the Super Speedway of the West, Evergreen Motor Speedway. Your race is put on by IPI International Productions Incorporated. That's Bob, John, and Mickey Beadle, the owners, presidents, and promoters of this beautiful speedway. They will be running 64.6 miles today, 100 laps, the Valvoline 100. Just moments away, now they're telling them 3 more laps. That's getting the tires warmed up, everything to go.
Of course, these same cars will be back here on June 4th. You'll also be able to hear that on KRKO radio. And then again on July 29th, 30th, and 31st, the Western Nationals 250. And we'll have these cars, we'll have Southwest Tour cars, we'll have ASA cars, and many others, along with Harry Gant making his final ride, the Bandits' last ride, first time ever at Evergreen Speedway. We're really excited about that. And of course, the gentleman sitting on the pole tomorrow at Darlington, Bill Elliott, will be here, along with Derek Cope, the uncle to Ernie Cope that we've been talking about here of recent. He'll be driving a Cope Brothers prepared automobile. And Toby Butler, a longtime favorite here at Evergreen Speedway and last year's winner of this very event, will be back from Charlotte, North Carolina to run in that one, along with many other superstars. We're expecting a big field, about 60 cars for that one, and you'll also be able to hear that on KRKO radio. So we get the 2 laps to go signal from Don Perry at the start-finish line. They'll grid them up now side by side. They're following the beautiful Pontiac Trans Am pace cars. The lights are still on.
And in the front row, the 90 of Mel Shinier, the 16 of Greg Biffle, and row number 2, 73 Gary Lewis, and 25 of Dan Press. In row number 3 is the 65, Kelly Danner, 64, Garrett Evans, our new track record holder. Row 4, Pete Harding, 39, and the 99 of Kirk Rogers. And row number 5, Bob Kerslake, number 26, and the 7 of Ron Eaton in the new white machine. In row number 6, Joe Constance, 78, and the 52 of Chad Bennett. In row number 7, Ken McMahon, the 3 car, and the 2 of Mike Kelly. In row number 8, Steve Olson, 36, and the 11 of Tom Swetman. Row number 9, Bill Lawrence, the 21, the 81 of Martin Rossler. In row number 10, Bill Hittner, the 82, and the 13 of Earl Whiting. That runs out your top 20.
And that is quite a field. Any one of those top 20 could pick up the win here tonight. Of course, a lot can happen when the leaders start to lap into some of the back markers. A lot of things could happen. We've had it happen here before where they've gone from green to checkered. Twice, as a matter of fact, it's happened in the last couple of years. Or we could be here for a long time. So hopefully everything goes smooth. Don Perry will give them the 1 lap to go signal this next time by. The lights will go off on the Pontiac pace car. I'll tell you what. The hackles on the back of the neck, Gary, have risen. The thunder of these cars coming by, the best in the West, are right here tonight.
We're going to watch an awfully big move by that 64 car, as we know that Garrett Evans be going to a Ford-powered car, but right now, and also, first time in several years, as you said earlier, Scott, in a V8. He's still in the Oldsmobile, it's actually the Buick, but it's a V8, as there's no V6s left in the tour races on the West Coast, Southwest Tour or Northwest Tour. And Mel Shinier sits up very proud in that pole position. We'll watch him coming out of turn number 4 with Greg Briffle on the outside. Gary Lewis tucked into that 3rd spot, and then Dan Press as we get set to go. We'll watch Don Perry, our starter, as he takes a look at him. We go green into turn number 1. Biffle makes a big jump on the outside, tucks in ahead. He will lead it. Then Shinier in the 2nd spot. Dan Press in 3rd. Gary Lewis. Lewis draws back to 4th. Into the 3rd spot goes to 25 of Dan Press. But out front is Greg Biffle, the 16. He'll try to lead it into 3. Got about a half a car length later as they go single file. Down to the outside comes Garrett Evans. He tries to make a move from that 4th position. Won't happen this time. They flash across, complete 100 make up the distance. Your leader, Greg Biffle.
And Shinier and Bitter Raider. Dan Press come together, and Shinier up into the outside wall. He collects up Evans. Here goes Ron Eaton also into that one. We see the 39 of Pete Harding also involved. Kelly Kenner involved in that one. A major wreck here on lap number 2.
what happened is Dan Press had the door slammed on him as he and Shenyer got together going into turn number 1, and then Shenyer slid up across the track into the turn 1 wall, collecting up a bunch of cars. Now we see that everybody has pulled away except the number 90 of Shenyer and the 39 of Pete Harding. The 36 car, Steve Olson out of Eatonville, has pulled away with some damage to that car. Pete Harding, boy, this has just not been his track. He said, darn it, this track owes me one big time. Had some major wrecks here with that car. We see now that Garrett Evans, your track record holder, he was involved in that one. He's going to take it off onto pit road. Again, we see that Evans on the pit road. We see that Kelly Tanner with some major sheet metal damage to the back end of the Lacra Cookie Pack Services number 65. He is pulled up on pit road. So let's go down to Kelly Hart.
In the Garrett Evans pit, they've lifted off the hood. They're looking down underneath in about the left front wheel well. Meanwhile, over in the Kelly Tanner pit, they're pulling out the entire right rear side. Matter of fact, they're pulling away the sheet metal, and they're going to strip the whole entire rear end bare on Kelly Tanner's 65 machine.
Well, things really happening hot and heavy on pit road at this point. And we still have the track safety crew has gone up to both Shenyer and Harding. And we understand that they are okay at this point. We'll wait for further word before we make any more speculation. But the track safety crew is now on the scene, as our wrecker service here. So this will be a good point to go ahead and take a short break here on the KRKO Racing Network. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Again, you're listening to Live Racing here from Evergreen Speedway, the Valvoline 100 on KRKO Radio.
So you're...
And we are back here at Evergreen Speedway, and let's immediately go down to Kelly Hart.
All right, Steve Olson in the 36 car, superficial damage, just a little bit of sheet metal. They pulled the hood off of that. Kelly Tanner is out of the 65 car. It's shut off. Meanwhile, the Evans crew feverishly working underneath the left front end. Looks like they're working on some suspension parts.
And let's go immediately to Ron Bennett.
Mike Kelly in with a flat left front tire. Ernie Cope still having problems with the shifted linkage. It hung up again.
And Ernie Cope will go down a lap to the field. Also, the 64 car going down a lap to the field there, putting out the black flag for...
Penalty black flag being displayed for Dan Press, and he pulls it up on pit road. We'll see how long they make him sit on pit road, whether it's a stop and go or a lap penalty. He and Shenyer came together. Again, I won't speculate how it happened. All I know is I happen to be watching it, and they came together as they enter turn number 1. Shenyer got sideways, slid up across the track into turn number 1 wall, came back down off the wall and collected up a few other cars. We've been chronicling that here. One of those cars, again, being Garrett Evans. We understand that Kelly Tanner has come out of his car. Now, we are counting yellow flag laps. We're on lap number 4. And unless we see that we're going to go for a long period of yellow, we'll keep counting it. If we see that it's going to be a long period, then they'll stop the cars and put out the red flag. That's one of the nice things about the NASCAR Northwest Tour.
And now NASCAR telling us that they are just penalizing by putting the back of the field.
So just
he
a stop
will
and
not
go,
lose a lap, but we have people in the pits losing a lap. We are 4 laps into the race, the Valvoline 100, and working lap number 5. The pace car lights are still on. We now see the Pete Harding car, number 39, the Surrey, British Columbia drivers, beautiful yellow and red 39 car on the hook. And also going up on the skid trailer will be the 90 of Mel Shenyer, who lost that lead into turn number 1. Greg Biffle still sits out front, so he's led the first 5 laps. It's Greg Biffle in first, and Gary Lewis 73 second. And back to the 52 car, who has moved up very well, Chad Bennett. Last year's champion would be in fourth, the 99 of Kirk Rogers. And then we have the 26, who will follow, and that's Bob Kerslake.
And then, of course, chronicling the Pete Harding story. It started a couple of years ago here at Evergreen. We always have a press day prior to this race, like on a Thursday. And he brought his car out. We asked him to come down with it. It was a brand new, a pace setter chassis. Just hadn't even been out of the box yet. Brought it down to show the press what a tour car looked like, give them a few rides around the track. Well, they did, and then they said, okay, well, let's put them on camera. Let's get some moving up to speed type of shots for the news that night. Well, the first lap where Pete puts the pedal to the metal, goes out of turn number 2. Car goes directly into the turn 2 wall. the steering wheel came off in his hand. At pace setter, the knuckle wasn't welded together, and there he sat with a completely wrecked race car. Well, he had to spend most of the season out of the series while he waited for a new car to be built by pace setter, and they were very nice about it. Then last year, he comes back, looks like he's going to go strong. Boom, the snake jumps up and bites him again. He totals another car here at Evergreen Speedway. So at the end of the year last year, he says, boy, this racetrack sure owes me one. Well, what happens tonight? Second lap in, gets collected up, had no room to go, and we see the car now being towed down the front stretch. Hopefully it's only superficial damage, and that it doesn't have wasted a whole new race car. That gets expensive.
I think Pete forgot to tell him what the track owed. It may have paid him back. He just didn't know exactly what it was, but obviously not where he wanted to be on the hook. Not tremendous damage. That's quite fixable, but not for this race tonight.
Another story on Pete at Phoenix International Raceway. A lot of these guys go down to run the Saturday before the Winston Cup race at the Pyro 500 at Phoenix International Raceway. They have the Southwest Tour race down there, so a lot of our Northwest drivers go down. And Pete Harding, we'll continue that story because we understand we got a report in the pits from Kelly Hart.
All right, Garrett Evans is out of the pits. They just knocked the front end out of alignment. Took quite a bit to get it back adjusted. He's down 1, maybe 2 laps.
Well, I think he might even be down 3 laps for Garrett Evans. We'll wait and hear the official word from NASCAR scoring on that. Continuing on with the Pete Harding story, he qualifies, had a great run going for himself, really sorts the car out in the last practice session on Friday afternoon for the Saturday running. All of a sudden, Saturday morning, I'm wandering up and down pit road, and the cover's over Pete Harding's car. Everybody's thrashing on their cars, getting it ready. Where's Pete? Well, Pete's in the hospital. What do you mean he's in the hospital? Well, he woke up this morning with just unbelievable abdominal pains. We're not sure what it is, and they put him under so much medication that they were unable to talk to him and coherently to find a backup driver. There was a couple of Winston Cup drivers that said, sure, I'll climb in that car. It's a great car. Matter of fact, I understand they had Elliott, even Earnhardt was lined up to possibly get in the car, but they could not get the permission for Pete Harding, the car owner, to go ahead and put him in there. So let's go ahead down to Ron Bennett. You've got Pete Harding.
I'm standing here with Pete Harding. Pete, first off, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I got no damage. I feel good. I didn't hit too hard. Well, the car looks like it's pretty badly tore up. The crew's thrashing over it. Boy, this place owes you. Yeah, I'll tell you, I've taken some rough licks here. Whenever we seem to get good, we just seem to get into another crash every time, you know. Well, Pete, I know you'll be back, and the good news is he is not hurt. Thank you, Pete.
Well, as you heard, he says this track does owe him one. Someday it's going to come, and when it does, I think we'll all be in Pete Harding's corner. Well, the lights are still on the Pontiac pace car, and we're working lap number 7, and it'll be 8 laps down this time across the line. The youngster, the rookie, Greg Biffle, showing some strength right now. A former Superstock champion here at Evergreen Speedway, was really leading the Rookie of the Year points last year on the Northwest Tour. Had some motor problems towards the end of the year, and that championship slipped away from him. Gary Lewis sits in that second position.
Chad Bennett in the third spot, also a fellow with not too much experience in this track, and we do see going down a couple more laps. That's still a problem back in the pits, the 64 car, our new track record holder with a car that will hold no type of record now. As we've completed 8 laps, he's down about 6 laps, and that should absolutely negate any chance he has to pick up a victory here, as he had the first 8. Now it's starting to turn around for him. We go down the tracks to Kelly.
Kelly Tanner with us. And Kelly, can you tell us what happened out there?
We came down after the first lap there, run down in turn 1, and a couple guys got together up front, and people behind us just didn't get slowed down quite fast enough. And, you know, the first lap of the race, brakes aren't up to temperature, and I think that's probably what started the whole thing. But car's fixable pretty easy, and we'll be back at Tenino, and we've got track record there, and we're going to spank them there.
So it just pretty much lost the rear clip. Anything up front? I noticed you guys pulled the hood off, too.
Yeah, we just pulled the hood off to look, but everything up front's fine, and the new door and some rear fenders and a little bit of tubing, and we'll be back.
That's Kelly Tanner out for the night.
That's too bad for the Yoshida Sauces Pack Services Chevrolet. Also, the Lacra cookies. Boy, I'll tell you what, when they're giving those away after the races, I always make sure I make an extra trip down through the pits. Really some neat sponsors that young gentleman had. And there's another one that has had some bad luck here at Evergreen, and hopefully he'll get it straightened out here. And later on this year, when we're back on June 4th, maybe it'll come. but the best one that he'd like it to come would be the Western Nationals 250. We get the 1 lap to go signal. And I think they've got Rogers sorted out. They're having a problem getting him in line, so we'll wait for that one. Right now it's Greg Biffle, followed by Lewis. Then we move back to the 52 of Chad Bennett. That's your first 3 cars. Now, Biffle, basically a rookie, only had a couple of races last year. Lewis, his first year was last year on the tour. Chad Bennett, he's only had a couple of races last year at this racetrack, most of them in the Superstock division. He's moved up to the tour this year. Nice young gentleman. He's going to be a great one here on this circuit. Bob Kerslake holds on to 4th. Then we move back to Ken McMahon, the KRKO car, in 5th. Then Ron Eaton holds on to 6th. The Sweatman car is 7th. Then Kirk Rogers will be 8th, and Earl Whiting will be 9th. And then right behind them, that looks like the 81 of Martin Rossler holding on to the 10th position.
And we missed the 21 of Bill Lawrence out of Kelowna, British Columbia. They have him showing in the 9th position this time, Earl Whiting in the 10th.
Sure do. All right, we got the 1 lap to go signal at the start-finish line. The pace car is pulled off the track on the backstretch. The lights are off. Here they come, up out of turn number 3. Into turn number 4, where we'll be working lap number 11. As they come out of turn number 4, Greg Biffle takes them off towards turn number 1. It's Biffle, followed by the 73 of Gary Lewis. They break away from Chad Bennett. He sits back there in third now, about 5 car lengths back. Then we go to Kerslake. He falls back by about 5 car lengths behind Bennett. He's being challenged hard by Ken McMahon, and that will be for 4th position. McMahon slides up underneath, then takes over that spot. Here comes Ron Eaton. Follow him on through. He'll slide up into 5th spot. Meantime, it's still Biffle, Lewis, Bennett. Here comes McMahon and Eaton.
And Eaton in that 5th position. He got around Kerslake. Then right up also behind Kerslake comes the 11 of Tom Sweatman. And back on the move after he had slowed momentarily, Kirk Rogers, who completed every lap last year in the Northwest Tour. Battle up front. Here comes Gary Lewis. He looks underneath. They come out of turn number 4. It's Lewis right behind him. We flash across. We complete 13 and take it to Terry Buell.
Biffle still out front with Lewis right behind him. He'll follow him out of turn 2. 3rd place, Chad Bennett. Still running in 4th is the 3 car, and Ron Eaton on the move there. Ron looks like he took some cosmetic damage in the wreck previous, but he looks all together now, and fast as he looks on the inside now.
Rick Pointer making a pit stop on the front stretch. He had some problems, motor problems earlier. Look at Kirk Rogers. He and Sweatman are challenging back in the field, and a black flag being displayed for some 1 car. We'll find out from NASCAR scoring who it is. Meantime,
22 car, he jumped the start. They're going to move him back.
Okay, that will be the 22 car of Lou Miller. Anyhow, your leaders back across the line, working lap number 16. They are starting to break away from the field. From Vancouver, Washington, Greg Biffle, followed by Everett, Washington, Gary Lewis. They are nose to tail as they head off towards turn number 3. Chad Bennett now has pressure off from Ken McMahon and Ron Eaton. That's the battle back there for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Meantime, your leaders across the line, it's still Biffle and Lewis, nose to tail, turn 1.
With about a 2.5 second lead, the top 2 cars have broke away from the rest of the field. Beautiful battle as the 52 car, Chad Bennett, tries to hold off the veteran Ken McMahon. McMahon now will charge him into turn number 3, and right behind him, Ron Eaton in the brand new car. The white with the red numerals, so many years with a bronze-colored car. We see one going in now, the 23 of Barry White, as he will go into the pits. Looks like a flat tire. One goes down the left outside. Here comes McMahon. He goes to the outside. He will try to stick with us for that 3rd position. All the way down the backstretch, he covers the numbers, gets the nose out in front, will charge into 3, stays wide. Now, nice out ahead by about a quarter of a car length, pulls into 1 car length. We flash across, complete lap 18. Biffle with a challenge. Traffic ahead. Lewis in 2nd. McMahon 3rd. Bennett 4th. 5th is the 7 car, Ron Eaton.
And Biffle coming up on lap traffic now, working it well as Lewis trails, clearing lap traffic himself. Ken McMahon about 15 car lengths behind in 3rd, followed by Bennett and Ron Eaton.
So your leaders coming up out of turn number 4 on down the front stretch as they head off towards turn number 1. It's Greg Biffle now going up a little bit on Lewis. Lewis falling back just a tad bit, about 5 car lengths, maybe just sitting back there keeping the car loose. Then we go back to your 3rd place car, Ken McMahon. He is starting to close in on those front 2 cars. Ron Eaton, though, has his hands full as he's trying to get around the youngster, Chad Bennett. as they come on down the front stretch, nose to tail, putting the 32 car of Gary Funk down one lap. We're working lap number 21.
Fastest car on the course at this time, the 3-car Ken McMahon, who runs in the 3rd spot. Now into heavy traffic at the outside. Greg Biffle also puts another car down the lap as he is followed closely by Gary Lewis. They come out of turn number 4. They'll flash across complete lap number 21. 100 make up the distance for the Valvoline 100 is Greg Biffle. Will follow him out of turn number 2, about 2 car lengths behind the 73 car of Gary Lewis. And now closing in about 10 car lengths back, the 3 car of Ken McMahon. Bennett runs 4th in the 52. In 5th, the 7 car of Eaton. In 6th, the 99 of Rogers. We have them flashing across 22 by the board.
And now the battle develops back in the field between Ron Eaton and Kirk Rogers. They're nose to tail as they're right on the back end of Chad Bennett. That's a battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Nose to tail down the backstretch. What a great race it is. The youngster Chad Bennett holding off the wily veteran of Ron Eaton and the defending champion Kirk Rogers. The youngster handling it well as he comes up out of turn number 4. He slides out a little bit wide. A pass maybe into turn number 1. No, he slams the door on Eaton.
At the same time, Kirk Rogers goes to the outside. Eaton. They'll make a 3-car sandwich out of turn number 2. In heavy traffic, Gary Lewis gets up underneath Biffle. We have a change of lead coming out of turn 4. Gary Lewis to 73. The Playboy flashes across, puts that hard down. Biffle tries to grab him. A new leader on lap 24 is Gary Lewis.
Gary Lewis, a defending champion in the Superstock division from 2 years ago, comes out of turn number 2 down the backstretch. Your new leader, Biffle, right on his tail. What a move he pulled in traffic. He slammed the door on Biffle. Now Biffle tries to return the favor as they come up on some lap traffic out of turn number 4. But Lewis hears nothing of it. He slams the door himself on Biffle. They'll fall in behind the number 36 car of Steve Olson, who was involved in that earlier mishap. Lewis pulls up to the outside, and he'll get along outside of him on the turn number 2. Now he has a little bit of room in front of him. Biffle will follow him on through. But meantime, your 3rd place car, Ken McMahon, closing in on those 2. He's closed it down to about 4 car lengths. Out of turn number 4, coming on down the front stretch, Terry Buell, you got your leader into turn number 1.
As Lewis has made the move on Biffle, Ken McMahon has slyly caught up with them. Now he's only about 4 or 5 car lengths off of Biffle's rear deck lid, and I think that he might be able to reel them in real shortly.
They both get around Chris Cunningham, the 04 car. Now the 3rd place car, McMahon, tries to do that. Nobody moving up very fast. Kirk Rogers runs in that 4th spot. Bennett 5th. Eaton in 6th, and Eaton in a little bit of a problem as he just backs off momentarily. We watch our leaders. We've completed 27 laps. Down the backstretch goes Gary Lewis. That would be the first big win here, if I'm right.
Oh, boy, it
on
sure
the
would.
5/8.
It'd be his first win on the 5/8, also his first win as a Northwest Tour driver. Out of turn number 4 and already across the line, Gary Lewis, he opens it up by about 10 car lengths over Biffle, who's starting to slide backwards. Here comes McMahon. He's sitting back about the same distance to Biffle. Then we move on back to the number 99 of Kirk Rogers. That gentleman knows how to win at this racetrack, so keep your eye on him. He's been slowly moving up through the field. Then behind him, the 52 of Bennett. Then we go back to Ron Eaton, and then a big group of cars into turn number 1. They are side by side, all kinds of racing action. 3 wide out of turn number 2 down the backstretch. Wow.
36 cars, 33 still on the course at this time, and it's a packed 6.46 mile, the big 5/8 at Evergreen Motor Speedway. We're going to complete lap number 30 as we'll come across with our leader in heavy traffic.
And he is moving back up on the back end of the 10. I've already got a car up into the wall. A car into the turn number 1. Butterton. A yellow flag here on lap number 30. Butterton, and what a break, basically, Gary Cressy, for Gary Lewis. He was coming up on some real heavy lap traffic. They were 3 wide in front of him. He had no place to go. Then all of a sudden, Butterton, trying to get out of the way, gets up into the marbles, collects up the turn number 1 wall. He looks okay. As a matter of fact, he's gotten going back under his own power. But now this will give Gary Lewis a lot of open track as we see the side skin of the number 10 of Ernie Cope. It's been a rough day for that guy, starting to peel away. So we'll go ahead. We'll take this break here as you're listening to Live Auto Racing from Evergreen Speedway on the Evergreen Racing Network. the Valvoline 100 on KRKO Radio.
Scott Ellsworth with more from the Evergreen Speedway in Monroe. The Valvoline 100 NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour tonight on KRKO.
And just as we come back, we see Dave Butterton coming down the front stretch, limping off onto pit road. Definitely major sparks flying from the underside of that car. Left side damage, or make that right side damage to the number 97 of Butterton. So he pulls on the pit road. We're now working lap number 33 as NASCAR officials get everybody sorted out, single file. And we understand that Butterton possibly lost the brakes, and that's why he got the turn number. They exploded, okay? We're getting the word, and that's probably why the tire's down and everything else. Terry, you've probably had that happen to you before.
Not a fun situation to reach for the brakes and have none there. Really nothing he could do at that point either. He did the safest thing, I think. Got up out of the way against the wall where he wouldn't be a detriment to the other drivers coming into turn one.
So the lights are on the Pontiac pace car. They have gathered the field up. It's still Gary Lewis, your leader, followed by Biffle. Now McMahon, who had a chance to get caught up. Let's go immediately down to Ron Bennett.
Standing down here, Dave Butterton's car, major damage on the right front suspension. The A-frame is broke, and he said he just kind of got the marbles out there. It kind of got moved out of the way, hit the wall.
Yeah, he could have that back in. We appreciate that as we completed 33 laps. Your leader at the end of 33, the 73 car of Gary Lewis. In the second spot, Greg Biffle in the 16. Third is the 3 of Ken McMahon. Fourth is the 99 of Kirk Rogers. Fifth, the 52 of Bennett. Sixth, the 7 car, Ron Eaton. Seventh, the 11 car, Tom Sweatman. Eighth will be the 26 of Bob Kerslake. Ninth, the 78 of John of Constance, and 81 car, Martin Rosser. 10th. Those are unofficial standings at the end of 33. Down now to Ron Bennett in the pits.
Mike Kelly in the 2 car, handling problems, put him out for the night, something that they can't expect, and he's going to be back super fast in his Procraft car.
Let's go down to Kelly Hart. Kelly?
Ernie Cope back in on the pit area as well. They're removing more of that right side sheet metal from the vehicle. We see Ron Bennett heading down there. He'll give us a closer report.
Well, I'll tell you what, Gary Cressy, what this is doing, some of the top guns on the circuit are having problems tonight. Garrett Evans, one of those, and Ernie Cope. These are the guys that usually walk away from this racetrack in the top 5 or whatever in points and get that jump up on everybody. I think tonight we may be seeing the start of a new reign here on the NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour.
Well, except for the 99 car, Kirk Rogers, who completed every lap last year.
Well,
he is certainly in a position in the 4th spot to make a move at him. But you alluded to a little bit earlier, Scott, and that's absolutely right. For about 5 or 6 laps now, the 73 car, Gary Lewis, who knows this track, who's never won here on the Northwest Tour, we know on the big track, but he'll push clean air for about 4 or 5 laps, and that really makes it nice. Then he can also take the way that he would like to go. As we go down to the pits now to Kelly.
Car in the 64 car, so it looks like Garrett's evening might be done.
And let's go down to Ron Bennett also.
The 10 car, some damage to the right side of the car. It seems to be cosmetic.
All right. Well, again, our pit reporter's doing yeoman job down there, Gary Cressy, as always. We get the 1 lap to go signal from Danson Don Perry. We got 35 laps of 100 down. And now, some of these drivers, the tires, they know how the car is going to handle Terry Buell in this type of race. What are you thinking at this point?
Well, just to keep your head, keep your cool, get on a line, get in a rhythm, and just maintain it, really. And
we got a problem here on the 09 car. Darrell George into turn number 1 under yellow flag conditions, spins and goes down to the infield inside of turn number 1. Darrell George, a rookie, so the yellow flag will remain out. He gets it going under his own power again, but the yellow flag remains out here on lap number 36 as everybody hard on the binders heading off towards turn number 1. So Darrell George, something happening to that car under yellow flag conditions as he headed off towards turn number 1, spun it around, and let's go down to Kelly Hart.
Well, as they were coming into turn number 1 on the pace lap, Darrell George coming in a little bit hotter than the car in front of him. To avoid hitting him, he turned the wheel hard left. That got the back end loose. He slid on into the grass and then had to move to the back of the field for the restart.
Well, Gary, how many times have we seen that situation? A little bit too hot on the pedal, and everybody's still just crawling through the turn, and all of a sudden, eeks, I don't want to hit anybody, so you spit it out to avoid it. And Then all of a sudden now we still under yellow, so the Pontiac pace car is pulled back out in front of the field, but at the same point we're also getting the light going off and 1 lap to go.
The old chain reaction as they don't get stopped. We've been noticing he's only picked up about 5 positions. The 25 car, who ran very well up front, looks like he could be one of the winners, but these cars are so evenly balanced and so close in competition, he's having a whale of a time trying to get through the rest of the pack.
Ron Bennett.
I told you that he had too much work to do on the car. He wouldn't be back out, but look who's pulling back out in the racetrack, the 39 car, Pete Harding.
Looks like an East Coast modified. Pete Harding coming off a pit road, and a big hand from the fans here at Evergreen Speedway. Pete Harding out of British Columbia has put the car back on the racetrack. He wants a championship, so he's out there for the points right now. He can't run with the front runners, but right now he's just out there for the points. The green flag flies, and we're back to racing.
Into turn number 1, Gary Lewis pulls out to about a 3-car length lead, just drops it down the rebel strips. Beautiful, lets it smooth, and he coasts out of turn number 2, gets back on the loud pedal, and he pulls a biffle a little bit sideways as McMahon starts to gather him in that 3rd spot. Gary Lewis running a ton, got to be comfortable, clean air out in front. He pushes out of turn number 4, flashes down across the paint. He completes lap number 39. On the move, Gary Lewis.
Gary Lewis opening it up by about 8 car lengths over Greg Biffle out of Vancouver, Washington. Then we move back about 5 car lengths to Ken McMahon. Here comes the man out of Spokane, Washington. The Monaco Enterprises Chevrolet, the 99 of Kirk Rogers now closing in on McMahon. And we have some problems on the backstretch. We got a car into the wall on the backstretch. That looks like the 04 car of Chris Cunningham into the backstretch wall facing the wrong direction. Another yellow flag here on lap number 40. Kelly Hart.
Coming out of turn number 2, Cunningham having some trouble handling that. The car got a little sideways. He had nowhere else to go. It swung around back in. 3 or 4 cars darted left to avoid him. So Chris Cunningham looks like some pretty serious damage, too, as he sits up against the backstretch wall.
And that's where he sits right now without power on that car. So quickly the track safety crew out on the scene. We'll go ahead at this point, take another break here. You're listening to Live Auto Racing from Evergreen Speedway on the Evergreen Racing Network on KRKO Radio, the Valvoline 100. And we are back here at Evergreen Speedway on KRKO and live here on the PA system. Cunningham sits up on the backstretch wall, and we got a report from Ron Bennett.
I was just out there at the car, Scott, and he is okay. In fact, he's trying to get the track crew to assess the damage on the car. He's wanting to be pushed off. Let's go racing.
Well, Cunningham, typical race car driver, can it be fixed? And trying to get the track crew to do the fixing for him.
Second, we've got McMahon in the pits. The man running third pulls in.
Cow.
Ken McMahon, and if we have one of our pit reporters close to there, and Kelly is hustling over right now, we'll get a report from 3rd spot. That'll move the 99 car of Kirk Rogers into the 3rd position behind Biffle and Lewis, now down to Kelly.
Well, it looks like McMahon came in, thought he had a tire going down. It wasn't, so they didn't change the tire. We'll watch and see if they come back in and give it one more shot.
Well, Ken McMahon, who had been moving up through the field, but then once he caught the field, Gary, we kind of noticed that he was really moving up on him quite quickly, and then all of a sudden, the last couple of restarts, he's been falling back, so he must have picked up a vibration in the car. Terry Buell sitting up here, of course, been a race car driver for a lot of years. What's that feel like inside the car?
Well, sometimes it's hard to pinpoint exactly where that vibration might be coming from. So, obviously, wanting to be safe, he wanted them to check it. They've checked the right front, it looked like, and have sent him back onto the track. Whether or not they'll bring him back in for a second look, we'll just have to wait and see.
And he loses about 30 positions in the same spot, but of course still on the lead lap as he got back out again. Now, if they do bring him back in, we'll take a check as we go down to the pits.
They're discussing it down here right now. We might want to talk about the reason they didn't change the tires. You can only change tires if they are flat, and the NASCAR officials have to inspect that tire, and it must be losing air, or you will be penalized. That's why they don't just go ahead and change them.
That is very true, and that's something that we hadn't brought up to the fans here or on the radio. There is a tire rule in NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour. You qualify on a set of tires. That's the set of tires that you start the race on. You leave those tires on unless you've got a flat tire. There'll be a little bit different rule for tires for the 250 because, of course, those tires wouldn't be able to go the whole 250. And it's happened before. They took off a tire. They thought it was going flat. NASCAR's there on the spot. They take an air check, and they wait a few minutes. And if there's not any air leaking from that tire, you will be penalized.
That's why every good crew chief always carries an ice pick.
Yes. Okay.
The fair way to do that.
So the crash crew has picked up the front end of Chris Cunningham's car on the backstretch. We're now working lap number 45 of 100. We're getting close to the halfway point here of the Valvoline 100. Of course, we'd like to thank all the folks from Valvoline Motor Oils. And for those who know, use Valvoline. And they're big sponsors out here at Evergreen Speedway. Also, the Flapjack Restaurant in Marysville for bringing us this broadcast here on KRKO Radio.
And Kevin Grant from Built Right Fences, the sponsor, one of the sponsors on the 73 car, Gary Lewis, says Gary wins the race, he's going to give him $100.
Wow.
Well, if Gary wins the race, NASCAR is going to give him about $4,000, so that'll help.
Yeah.
That'll get you all the way to Woodville.
Maybe Gary will feel real good and give us the $100, okay? Well, hopefully, I'll tell you what, it'd be a very popular win. We've lost Toby, of course, now, who's gone back east. That's who everybody was rooting for. Well, maybe now Gary Lewis will be the new hero from Evergreen Speedway on the Northwest Tour for everybody to cheer for. Well, we're still under yellow flag conditions. We have extricated the number 04 car of Chris Cunningham.
Yep, they picked it right up and moved it.
And they're moving it off of the racetrack. Also, we see that Ken McMahon has not gone back up on pit road at this point to have the car further checked out, so he must feel comfortable that the crew says, nope, there's nothing wrong with the car, drive the thing. But, boy, he's really got to go now because he's sitting at the back end of this field.
That's what I do. I drive.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and take another quick break here on KRKO. You're listening to live auto racing from Evergreen Speedway on the Evergreen Racing Network, the Valvoline 100 on KRKO.
So you're
Well, thank you very much, and we are back here, Moose Moran at Evergreen Speedway, and we're still under yellow flag conditions from the mishap on the backstretch. It happened on lap number 40 when Chris Cunningham got sideways, turned it all the way around, and collected up the backstretch wall. He is now up on pit road, courtesy of the track wrecker. So now we'll see if the track safety crew has deemed the track raceable. And we'll wait for word from NASCAR as they come on down the front stretch if the lights will remain aglow atop that beautiful Pontiac Trans Am pace car, the official pace car for the NASCAR Tour. Let's go down to Kelly Hart.
Well, you know, a classic example of knowledge of the racetrack. Gary Lewis, former Superstock champion here at the 5/8. He knew exactly when and where to go to get around Biffle. Biffle had never been here at this track before, actually had been, but hasn't run on the 5/8 in a long time. Lewis showed his experience knowing where the traffic was going to go in a tour race and utilized that to get around Biffle. Now down the pit side, and Ron Bennett.
Ken McMahon is complaining of a very, very severe push in the car. The car is trying to go up towards the outside of the fence. Well, every time he goes into a corner, that's why he brought the car in to have them check it. That's the winner last year at Yakima in the 93 Northwest Tour.
Thank you, Ron Bennett. Great pit reporting the entire night, keeping the fans abreast of what's going on, and some not too happy starts for some of these fellows, like the 64 car Garrett Evans, as we told you earlier, the fastest man on the course in qualifying, and now sits idle over in, and he will finish far back in the field. Some of them got him going again. Pete Harding with the Surrey Modified in car number 39. Really a yeoman duty to get them back on the course. They say the next time around, one more time, we'll go green.
Well, an interesting sidebar to that there, Gary Cressy. If all of a sudden they come down to the last race and he's going for the championship, they can look back at this race and say, yeah, when we thrashed on that car and got you back out there in 10 laps, so you were able to finish the race, even though you couldn't run up with the front runners, we got enough points to possibly win this championship. You see it on the Winston Cup circuit each and every week. You wonder why they work so hard to get those cars back out. Those points are very, very valuable over a 16-race series as the NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour is. Well, Gary, here we go. We got Gary Cressy on the booth and Gary Lewis in the lead.
And we have drivers in the back of the pack. We'll watch McMahon, who ran third. He'll try to work. We also, after saying that the 25 car of Dan Press didn't do much, he has now moved up to about 16th position unofficially. We'll watch screen out of turn number 4, and we'll take him into turn number 1. Biffle looks outside this time. Gary Lewis, our leader, goes into turn number 1. They're nose to tail. They flare wide coming out of turn number 2, then go high to the banking in a beautiful run. The third spot goes 99 of Kirk Rogers, and 4th and 7 of Ron Eaton. Back to Bennett. Chad Bennett in the 52 car is 5th. Our top 5 is still Gary Lewis. He flies at over 110 miles an hour out of 4 into turn number 1. Your leader, Gary Lewis. We have 50 laps complete. We're halfway.
And Gary Lewis not able to go away from Greg Biffle this time on this restart like he did the last 2 restarts. Biffle has stayed right with him. Now Lewis does start to open it up by about 5 car lengths. But look at the number 99 of Kirk Rogers. He is sitting right there knocking on the door. And here comes the man out of Tacoma, Washington. Ron Eaton takes a look to the inside of Rogers, and Rogers has to now do some evasive moves to hold off Eaton as he challenges for that 3rd spot. Yellow flag, a spin on the front stretch. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars involved. One of those being the 32 car. Also, we see the 12 of Mark Bold, the 10 of Ernie Cope involved, and another white car sitting in behind him. Joe Constance, his car involved in this one. The 32 car, and of course that's Gary Funk. He gets it going. We see that Joe Constance receiving damage up against the front stretch wall, as he will pull it off under his own power. Bold yet to get going. The 10 of Ernie Cope yet to get going. What happened there is just too many cars trying to thread the needle as they came on down the front stretch, and they just ran out of racetrack.
Constance at that time running in the top 10, and it certainly bumps him back. We just finished lap 52 down to Ron Bennett in the pits.
Let's keep our eye on number 16 car, Greg Biffle, when we go back to green flag racing. I've been watching him come off of turn 2. The car is getting looser and looser every lap. He's got his hands full. Keep your eye on him on the restart.
You're right, Ron. We were watching him out of 4, and he was about sideways as the 99 car of Kirk Rogers started to make a move on him. So he's very loose as he comes out of 2 and 4 when you have to get back on the loud pedal instantly.
E.J. Watson, that other white car involved, has headed off on pit road with some front end damage. Looks like maybe just some fiberglass and sheet metal damage. Ron Bennett, while we've got a few moments, have you had a chance to talk to the crew? And how is son Chad Bennett doing out there? Seems to be running a very, very smart race at this point.
Well, he is having a good run, and we're very proud of the way he's running with the Northwest Tour. We're a little bit down on horsepower. You know the problems that his dumb father had when he dropped the bolt down the carburetor earlier today. We do have a valve that's bent, but he's running good, and if he can finish it up here, we're just going to be tickled plumb to death.
Well, let's go down to Kelly Hart.
In E.J. Watson's pit, they're pulling off the front nose piece. Looks like it's been dragging on the ground. So far, they're looking at the suspension. Doesn't look to be any serious major problems. We'll keep you posted.
Well, still running on the track, Gary Cressy, is Joe Constance, but that car has been shortened by about 3 feet on one side. Does not look real well. We'll have to see how well it is. We'll see how it tracks coming down the front stretch this next time. Maybe a Panhard bar, whatever, might be broke on that. Usually when you hit the back end as hard as he does, that Panhard bar, and that's the bar that basically holds the body to the frame rail and keeps it in line. Otherwise, what'll happen, that body will start to go off sideways, and the car's going one direction. The body really looks real wild as the car basically comes tracking down the front stretch almost sideways.
53 laps complete, and we'll go down to Ron Bennett.
Make that Kelly Hart.
All right, thanks. The other car to keep an eye on the restart, the 7 car of Ron Eaton. He is extremely strong on the low side of 2, coming into and out of that corner.
Well, that's a good report there, Kelly. We'll keep an eye on that one also. Boy, I tell you, I'd like to have the sheet metal concession after this one here tonight. It's just been one of those races where these guys keep getting into it. Everybody wants to lead on the next lap.
And you'd be the only guy with sheet metal because the rest will have fiberglass.
Fiberglass,
so
that's true.
I'd rather put the fiberglass together. Your top 6, we have 53 laps complete. Working lap number 54, Gary Lewis is 73. Your leader, Greg Biffle, 16, is in the 2nd spot. In 3rd, 99, the 1993 Winston NASCAR Northwest Tour Champion, Kirk Rogers out of Spokane, Washington. In the 4th spot, we the 7 car, the veteran Ron Eaton from Tacoma, Washington. In 5th, the 52 of Chad Bennett with the extra bolt down the carburetor that his dad fixed for him. And in 6th spot, last year's rookie, the 11 of Tom Swetman.
Ron Bennett.
Gary Cressy, you don't have to keep reminding him of that, but that's okay. The 10 car of Ernie Cope. He's had a tough go of it. He's just gonna park it. When it's not your day, it may be better to bring it on in and do it another day.
That's probably pretty smart on his part at this point. The car's just not handling well. Why tear up a perfectly good race car that we can get fixed, and we'll run it Tenino, where he runs very well. That's his home track. They'll be there in 2 weeks, by the way, for you folks. That'll be April 9th. It'll be the Budweiser 125 at Tenino Raceway, and that, of course, is South Sound Speedway, the High Bank 3/8 mile oval. head on down south on I-5, take exit 88. That's the Aberdeen-Tenino exit. Head east 2.5 miles, and bingo, you're at one of the finest short track racing facilities on the West Coast. South Sound Speedway, and these same cars will be there on the 9th of April.
One more time, the lights should go off on the Pontiac pace car. They do right at the paint, and we have 55 laps down, 45 laps to go, 100. Make up the distance for the Valvoline 100. The opening race for 1994 for NASCAR's Winston Northwest Tour. Good to have you aboard as we go down pit side.
In E.J. Watson's pits, they are doing some cutting on the front end. Looks like the damage was more serious than just the bodywork.
Well, major work going on E.J. Watson's car, trying to get him back out. Also, he is going to be trying to run for championship and rookie this season. Well, we got a ton of those. Right now, the gentleman out front would love to pick up a win at his home track, but he's got a few laps yet to go. The number 73 of Gary Lewis comes out of turn number 4. Green flag, and we're back to racing. Working lap number 56 as he flies into turn number 1. Biffle able to stay with him. We'll keep an eye on it, though. Biffle definitely pushes up a little higher in the turn. We'll have to wait and see once those tires heat up if that push develops again. Holding on to that third position is the 99 of Kirk Rogers. He's been in this position before. He could be just taking back and keeping that car fresh for a challenge in the last 25 laps. But he's being challenged hard by the 7 of Ron Eaton, who's knocking on the door.
57 complete, and Rogers drops back after every restart. Takes a little while for the tires to get up to temperature, then he makes a charge. Gary Lewis feeling very comfortable right now as he pushes the clean air out in front. Nobody looking. He's all up by himself coming out of turn 4. A 3-car length lead again. Biffle a little bit bobbly on the Biffle as he goes out of 4 into 1. Your leader, Gary Lewis, we take it to Terry Buell.
And Lewis shows him the way. And now Biffle, he pushes up in the apex, loses ground to Gary Lewis, who rockets down the backstretch. And Rogers pressed by Ron Eaton right now in 4th place. Lewis coming out of turn 4 now, heading back to the finish line with Biffle about 7 car lengths behind now. Ron Eaton looks low. And Rogers pulls. Rogers closes the door now as they shuffle down into turn 1.
He certainly did. As Eaton took a look down at the inside, he's able to get that car to handle just a little bit tighter out of the turns, so he gets a good look to the inside, exiting the turns, but he just doesn't have the horsepower to overpower the Monaco Chevrolet out of Spokane, Washington of the 99 of Kirk Rogers. He once again takes a look to the inside as they go around the number 23 of Barry White. He'll go down at least another lap to the field. Meantime, your front 4 cars out of turn number 4 down the backstretch. Gary Lewis, followed by Biffle, Kirk Rogers, and a very close number 7 of Ron Eaton. Then we move back to Chad Bennett and Tom Sweatman as they battle it out for the next 2 positions. As they come up out of turn number 4, down the front stretch. Now Lewis is starting to move away from Biffle, who is having some problems in turns 1 and 2.
And moving in the top 10 this time, 81 car Martin Rosser and the 25 of Dan Press. Beautiful action in the back of the pack. We follow him all the way around. And the 25 will look underneath. It won't happen this time. Martin Rosser holds the line in the brand new yellow and red painted car. Our leader is coming out of turn number 4. He completes lap number 62. Also a great run going by the 22 car of Lou Miller and also Lee Daly. Not sure their position on the track, but they have ran hard.
And look who's moving up through the field, Gary. The number 3 of Ken McMahon has taken over the 11th position already from the back of the field. So whatever it was, he said, okay, I'm going to race this car. Pedal to the metal, vibration or no vibration. And he's moved up to 11th position. Meantime, your leader now coming up on some lap traffic. Pete Harding will pull down to the inside and let the leaders go on by. Again, or he was caught up in that earlier mishap, driving with about a half-foot automobile out there. Now, a big lead starting to develop for Gary Lewis as he's opened it up by about 20 car lengths. We'll put the clock on him and get an interval here as he comes across the line. Gary Lewis, and here comes Biffle. He goes across the line.
Almost a 2-second lead as he will work the traffic and gets around another back marker, goes wide He goes high to the banking. Beautiful. Now he'll set it up for turn number 3. No more clean air. A lot of cars ahead of him. But he'll run first. He'll run clean and not have to worry about the man behind him with a 2-second lead. Gary Lewis, a Playboy out of 4, is flashing across. He'll complete lap number 65. 35 to go. It's a Saturday Night Thunder. Oh, and Biffle blows into turn 1. He maintains, but smoke rolls out. Now he drops it in off of the racing group, and we go to yellow. That will be our 5th yellow of the night coming out on lap number 65 when Biffle blows.
Biffle, a big puff of smoke off the backside of the number 16 car as he came flying down the front stretch. A good save job, and he pulled it way down. As a matter of fact, he pulled it up into the grass down on the inside of turns 1 and 2, knowing that he's putting some fluid down on the racetrack, and that was a real nice gesture there and a heads-up move saying, hey, there's nothing I can do about this. I might as well get out of harm's way, and hopefully nobody will get into me, and I won't get into them. So anyhow, your leader, Gary Lewis. Gary saying, all right, these yellow flags gives me a chance to cool things down, back off a little bit, as you say, put some clean air between me and the back markers, and the laps are also going away as we're now working lap number 67. Well, we'll go ahead. We'll take this short break on KRKO. We'll come back. We'll go around the horn, get everybody's assessment up to this point as we're getting ready to come in on the 75-lap mark. You're listening to Live Auto Racing from Evergreen Speedway on the Evergreen Racing Network, the Valvoline 100 on KRKO.
The Valvoline 100 NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour.
Well, thank you very much, and we are back here at Evergreen Speedway, and let's immediately go down pit road with Ron Bennett.
Yeah, I've got Greg Biffle. Greg, a heck of a run till the motor let go.
Yeah, thanks. The car felt real good. It had a pretty heavy push, but we set the car up when it was hot out today. And I just want to take a minute to thank Tiz's Door Company out of Everett, Washington. They bought my tires for this race up here. And my mom for all their help, mom and dad. And the crew's done a hell of a job. And, I mean, we had a good car, and I think we had a pretty good second wrapped up. But there went the motor, we think. We'll figure it out when we get home.
How do you find the track out there? Is the track in good shape? It looks to be in excellent shape.
The track is in excellent shape right now. There's no oil, no nothing. There might be now, but it is a good track. Good track.
Good run for Greg Biffle. Too bad it had to end this way.
Well, kind of an excited gentleman for a guy that just blew on the motor there, Gary Cressy. He's excited because he's a rookie, and he was running up front, and he knows that he's got the ability and the power to do it. So now, and maybe he'll be able to put a good sponsor together, and we get the 1 lap to go signal at the start-finish line. Gary Cressy, your assessment to this point?
They ran it very hard, but Gary Lewis out in great style, and we've watched some of the veterans now move up in the 7th spot on officially the 25 car of Dan Press. Martin Rossler runs in the 8th spot, and then McMahon in the 9th, and that's all the way from the back of the pack, too. But I don't know who's going to catch Gary Lewis as we watch him come out of 4. He gets back up, but if everybody can, it's the 99 of Kirk Rogers. Spokane champion will charge. He'll run second, drops back about a car length and a half. Gary Lewis gets right back on it, pulls out quick. In 3rd spot, the 7 of Ron Eaton. In 4th, the 11 of Sweatman. In 5th is Chad Bennett. Bennett gets a challenge by one of the other cars. We think it might have been down a lap earlier on. We'll have to check out what that is. They flash across one more time. We have 70 laps complete, 30 to go. Gary Lewis.
Gary Lewis now opens it up by about 5 car lengths over Kirk Rogers. Then we go back to Ron Eaton right on his tail. Tom Sweatman holds on to 4th. Then we move back to another car. We'll pick up that car as it comes back by as Chad Bennett now being pressed hard by Dan Press, and Press will get on by as he slides up under. Remember, he was penalized earlier and put all the way at the back of the field. He's been moving on up through it. Look at this. Ron Eaton makes a move on Rogers as they slide into turn number 1.
Beautiful run. He maintains it, holds it, tries to get the push out. He does. He flashes out of turn number 2, pulls him hard. Beautiful run by the veteran Ron Eaton from Tacoma. Second leading money winner all time for the Northwest Tour. Also 27 career wins, and he'd like to make another one if anything can happen. But he will set sail now after Gary Lewis as the laps wind down. 72 down, working lap number 73 to Terry Buell.
Coming up on that 75 lap here in just a moment. Go ahead, Terry.
And Lewis hoping to maintain the 15-car advantage he has right now over Ron Eaton, who made an excellent move on the inside. That car is strong. He's able to hold it low and go real fast out of the corners. Gary lapping a back marker now.
And up to a 2-second lead after only 4 laps of green. Gary Lewis runs by himself out front. Ron Eaton in second. Kirk Rogers third. Sweatman fourth. In fifth will be Dan Press. Then in 6th, Chad Bennett. In 7th, Bob Kerslake. In 8th will be the 81 car Martin Rossler. In 9th, the 3 car McMahon. Those are unofficial. We don't have the position on the 36 car.
The 36 car was involved in an earlier mishap and made a pit stop. That would be the 36, of course, of Steve Olson. And I believe Steve may be down a lap. We'll have to check with scoring to find out officially. But up in here, unofficially, we do have him down a lap, although he is running right up there with the front group of cars. Meantime, Gary Lewis opens it up. We'll get an interview between he and Ron Eaton as they come across the line.
And he's picking up about a half a second a lap. He's at 2.43 seconds ahead. We'll give him one more time as he comes across. There's a great battle in the back. Ken McMahon trying to get around the 81 of Rossler. He does it. Now he's going to take Chad Bennett on the outside also. McMahon running a ton as we get our interval from our leader. And he has moved out to a same distance. Ron Eaton now running very smooth, but no challenge from the 99 of Kirk Rogers in 3rd. No challenge from Sweatman in 4th. And 5th, we're going to Kelly.
Just talked with the crew chief for Steve Olson, and they are down 2 or 3 laps.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly Hart. We get it right from the horse's mouth, the crew chief from Olson's car. They are down at least 2, maybe 3 laps.
We felt he was down, but he's running extremely strong right now.
We got trouble on the backstretch, as we understand some trouble back there, some smoke coming off one of the cars. Earl Whiting showing some smoke as he went down the backstretch. That's interesting because Kelly Hart, the yellow flag does come out, so we may have some fluid on the racetrack. Kelly had mentioned earlier he thought he saw something coming off the back end of the number 13 of Earl Whiting's car, and now something let him go. He is stopped on the inside of the backstretch out of our view. We do now see him as he is crawled up and out of the car under his own power as he sits up to the inside retaining wall, just deep enough that you can barely see the top of the car. And that's why we were unable to catch Earl Whiting where his position was. What a break now for Gary Lewis. Once again, moving in on lap traffic. Bingo. Yellow flag out now. Now, Terry Buell, it's starting to get towards crunch time here. He knows, he'll look back there, his radio, his people will tell him that's Kirk Rogers or Ron Eaton sitting behind you, and right behind him is Rogers, and right behind him is Dan Press. What are you thinking as a real youngster at this sport?
I talked to Gary earlier today. He is an excellent driver in traffic, and I asked him how he focused when he got out in the open, and it happens that he is going to be in the open when they go back to green. He said it is difficult, but he just has to try to concentrate on the track ahead of him, forget about who's behind him, and he does have an in-car camera in the car tonight.
It also makes it twice as hard when you have a Ron Eaton, and that veteran now, it's show and tell time, he knows that. He's going to make a run at it. He hasn't had a chance to catch him, but he'd like to slip under him here. I don't think that he'll get the jump that he had the last couple times. You won't catch him at the switch as we go down now to the pit area.
Strong a jump as Eaton's been getting on the restarts. Lewis has been getting just as good a jump on the restart. So it'll be interesting to watch and see who's got the horses the last 20 laps.
Well, very interesting, Kelly Hart. We'll go ahead and we'll take this break here. We're working lap number 80 as they'll come across the line this next time. Only 20 laps to go.
Here's Scott Ellsworth at KRKO, AM 1380.
And we are back here at Evergreen Speedway, and immediately let's go down to Ron Bennett.
A report on the 52 car, Chad Bennett. He got in a little bit of a shoving match here with the 26 car, Bob Kerslake. He's apparently bent the tie rods on the car. The toe in is way out. He's dropping back a little bit.
Well, a great report there from Ron Bennett, dad to Chad Bennett. It's a little tough to be doing the pit reporting and being on the air with us and wondering what Chad's doing, but he's handling it pretty well, Ron, and we really thank you. And, of course, Ron will be back here to help us on June 4th and also for the Western Nationals 250. Gary Cressy will be back up for the Western Nationals 250. We're really looking forward to that weekend. Again, tickets are on sale at the Speedway office or at any Ticketmaster location. It's going to be one of the greatest weekends of auto racing we've ever had here. On the 29th, we're going to have bombers, mini stocks, figure eights, and a couple of other special events yet to be announced. On Saturday, it's going to be one of the greatest racing days I think I've ever been associated with. We're going to start practice early in the morning. In the afternoon, we're going to have qualifying for the tour cars, wing sprint cars, and the special invitational Superstocks. Cars coming from Shasta Speedway, from Portland Speedway, Yakima, Tri-Cities, South Sound, plus our cars. First time, a lot of them will be on the 5/8 mile. Then we will have qualifying heat races for the 250 for the tour cars. That's the only way you're going to get into the show is via the heat races, just like they do for the Twin 125s at Daytona. Then the special 100-lap invitational race, and also a 50-lap wing sprint car race on the 5/8 mile. That's just Saturday. Then we come back and do it all over again on Sunday with a 50-lap last or 25-lap last chance race for the tour cars, and then at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the green flag will fly for 250 laps. First time that these guys will, most of them will go over 100 laps on this size a racetrack, and it's going to be really interesting with the crews and making tire changes, being like Winston Cup guys. Plus, we got Winston Cup guys coming back here to really show these guys how it is done.
And the crews will be working between now and then also, Scott, because they do not change, as you said, they can't even change a tire unless it goes flat, so they're just not used to that all the time. With the West cars for so many years, they practice that constantly, but they've got a long time to do that as we run in July on Speed Week 94. We're going to watch them coming out. We have 82 complete. Our 6th yellow coming out on lap number 78 for the 13-car of Earl Whiting. We'll go back to green on lap number 83, working 84. There'll be 16 to go at the stripe as we watch Gary Lewis. He gets about a 2-car length lead and now pulls it out. He out-horsepowers, running into the 7-car into turn number 3. Kirk Rogers runs about 3-car lengths behind. Ron Eaton, as they come out of turn number 4, now Eaton will make the charge. He gathers him up. They flash across. Complete lap number 84. 16 to go into turn number 1 with Terry Buell.
And making a great run from the back after a stop-and-go penalty is Dan Press in the 58 car. Blows the motor right on the start-finish line, bringing out the yellow. He was lucky enough to be able to turn left right directly into the pits and will take it right to his pit area.
58 breaks down as we watch him right there. We have completed 84 working on lap number 85. The Pontiac pace car is out, and we'll follow them through. Gary Lewis saying, "Holy Toledo, let me run. I just start to pull away." And then they gather that veteran back on my rear bumper. Beautiful 73 car. He's got an extra $100 from Built Right Fence if he takes this one through, plus a step up towards the championship. Kirk Rogers still runs well. Kirk Rogers has ran every lap last year, almost unheard of thing, Terry, and he looks like he's going to give it another run this year to complete every lap of racing. You're out of every accident. You don't break a thing. You've got to be fortunate and well prepared.
And he has shown that he is. Has a championship to prove it, and as you say, every lap complete last year.
Boy, it's awful hard to beat a guy like that. McMahon has moved up into the top 10, as has the 25, the Vader Raider.
I don't know if they'll give him that position if they go back to the lap previous. I don't know if he had gotten a lap in after getting by Sweatman or not. The board shows Sweatman still in 4th.
Well, why don't we go ahead and take this break here as we're getting down to the nitty-gritty time when we get ready to go back to green flag racing. We're working lap number 86 here at Evergreen Speedway. You're listening to live auto racing on the Evergreen Racing Network, the Valvoline 100 on KRKO. And we are back here. Gary Cressy, pick it up.
Thank you very much as we are back in green into the third cycle of the 25 car of Dan Press. Equal distance between first, second, and third. But it's a 1-car breakaway as Gary Lewis. With 12 laps to go, there'll be 11 at the stripe for the Valvoline 100. Gary Lewis out of Bothell, Washington, a favorite at the Speedway, loves it right now. He flashes across in the second spot. Ron Eaton in third. Dan Press in 4th. Kirk Rogers in 5th. The 11 of Tom Sweatman in 6th. Bob Kerslake in 7th will be Ken McMahon. In 8th, the 81 of Martin Rossler. In 9th, Chad Bennett. And in 10th will go the 27 car of Ken Bailey from Pasco, your top 10, with 10 laps to go right now. 90 by the boards, Terry Buell.
And Gary Lewis maintaining a smooth line around the 5/8 oval here at Evergreen. Equal distance, as you said, between Gary Lewis and Ron Eaton. Back in 3rd, Dan Press not able to close up, and Rogers holding off Sweatman. The battle for 4th right now on the track as Lewis comes out of turn 4, holding that smooth line. 91 laps down, 9 to go.
It's a 3-car breakaway from the rest of the field. Then Kirk Rogers holds back the 11 car of Sweatman as he fell off the pace. Sweatman gives him a little tap, scratch and sniff. No harm as they go down the backstretch. Good battle for the 4th spot. Now Sweatman looks inside.
Yellow flag.
The yellow is out.
We're not sure why. We'll check with NASCAR. We got a car up into the wall on the outside of turn number 3. A car in the wall on the outside of turn number 3. And that's Joe Constance, who had collected up the front stretch wall earlier.
He hadn't made a pit stop earlier. That he had shaken the car down. It seemed to be handling okay, and we don't know whether something finally broke on the car or if he collected something on the track. They'll certainly check that.
And so Joe Constance bringing out another yellow here. How many has that been, Gary? Have you lost track?
No, not at all. We keep track of that. That is the 8th yellow. And we've had 2 leaders to this point. Greg Biffle got a good jump on Mel Shinier, and he led 1 through 23. On lap number 24, Gary Lewis took over, and he is led right now through lap number 92, working lap 93, as will be under the pace car. He'll be picked up coming out of the turn. They'll clean Gary as quick as possible, and then we'll check with NASCAR to see how many of the green flag laps we will run to the conclusion of the Valvoline 100. You're seeing it right here at the Super Speedway of the Pacific Northwest Evergreen Motor Speedway. IPI, International Production Incorporated, along with the Beetle family and their general manager, Mr. Tom Glithrow. With Althea Butler, they have a tremendous crew here that runs the best races. You'll want to be back each and every Saturday night for all of the action. In the meantime, there's still action because it's never over till the large lady sings, and she hasn't even cleared her throat yet. We've got laps to go.
We certainly do. Some great racing yet to happen here. As again, we will not finish under the yellow flag. That's Northwest Tour rules. We'll have to check with NASCAR scoring to see if they'll run the last 5 or at least the last 3 or 2 or whatever the case may be. I was looking down here on Gary Lewis's fact sheet in the media guide put out by NASCAR. And, of course, 1993 was his rookie season. He had 2 top 5 finishes, 6 top 10 finishes, winning $11,000 last year. Now, Ron Eaton, who's sitting in the 2nd position, has not won since 1991, where he picked up 5 wins, and 2 of those came here at Evergreen Speedway. So now we have gone red, and the reason being is that the laps are going away, and it looks like it's going to take us a little while to clean up the Joe Constance wreck. So we have put out the red flag. We understand, yes, the red light is on the racetrack, so the laps will not count anymore, even though the cars are slowly moving around the racetrack. They'll stop them up on the backstretch. Usually that's where they'll do. They'll check the track out, see if there's any fluid put down on the track. And right now we are under red flag on lap number 93. When they get going again, we'll be working lap number 94.
That's got to be the worst situation that can happen, too.
Definitely.
To shut those down, you cool down. Some of them start right up, some of them seize right up. You just don't like to see that. We see them starting to move again rather than make them come to a complete stop. The pace car will lead them around, and we just checked with NASCAR scoring, and they could go all the way up to 99 under yellow, but then the final lap will be a white or a green and checkered, so we will have 1 racing lap. We will not finish under the yellow for the NASCAR Northwest Tour. Mr. Gib Repass out of Bremerton, Washington, our director of competition for the Northwest Tour, also the top man for NASCAR on the West Coast. To run the racetrack, he also runs the Winston West.
Let's go down to Ron Bennett. In years past, how many times have we seen that number 7 car in 2nd spot at this position in the race and pull out a win? I don't know if he can do it tonight. He's always been able to come off in turn 2 just a little bit better than anybody else, but that 73 car is pulling him out of turn 2.
Well, he certainly is, Ron, and a very good observation on your part that Gary seems to have the horsepower. But we noticed it earlier that Ron has taken a different line than everybody else. He's a much tighter line, especially for us looking at him coming out of turn number 4. He's gotten a good peak under everybody. That's where he got underneath Rogers. That's where he got underneath a couple of other cars right down here on the front stretch. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. He's a wily veteran. He's done it before. He'll come up. He'll come right up there. He knows maybe he doesn't have the horsepower, but he'll deke, he'll move, he'll swerve. He'll get you looking in that rearview mirror, and then all of a sudden, bingo, you make a mistake, and the door will open for Ron Eaton.
But
so
at
we'll
the
keep an eye on that.
Same time, he looks up front. Right alongside of him will be the 25-car Dan Press, who cut his teeth racing on a Safeway parking lot. Actually, it's called Sauga Speedway, with reverse camber where the water runs to the outside of the track rather than the inside. The only way you pass there is a little touch and go.
A little paint and sniff type action.
That's it.
All right, well, the lights have gone off the Pontiac pace car as Don Perry gives them the 1 lap to go signal. We'll have to keep an eye now. They went back to lap number 92 since the red flag came out, so we've got 8 more laps to go. Gary Lewis is saying, okay, now I really don't want any more yellows at this point. Let's go racing. The lights have gone off. He takes them down the backstretch, does Gary Lewis, at a very slow pace. He's going to try to catch them napping. But he's got 2, 3, 4 veterans right behind him. And Ron Eaton, Dan Press, Kirk Rogers, and Tom Sweatman. Takes them very slow into turn number 3. He jumps on the loud pedal. Out of turn number 3, Rogers is staying right along with him, as is Press and Eaton. Here they come up out of turn number 4. It's green flag, and we're back working lap number 93.
Gary Lewis in beautiful style drops it over the ripple strips, now takes it out at 2. He is at full song down the backstretch into the wall. We've got a crash. Martin Rossler, then the 22 behind him.
That would be Lou Miller.
Lou Miller, somebody broke something or blew something. We see the skid marks into the wall. Rossler, the first one to hit, brings out our 9th yellow flag on lap number 94.
Also, we see it looks like the number 21 car involved in that one as he went down into the infield grass, but he's gotten the car back up and running as he takes off down the backstretch. That would be Bill Lawrence out of Kelowna, British Columbia.
Tough break for Martin Rossler, running in the top 10 with a good early season start. Then something happened. We don't know if it broke, he lost it, and the way he went as he flashed up into the wall, then caught up a couple other ones trying to miss the records. We'll go to Ron Bennett.
I'm standing down here in turn 1. It looked to me like Martin Rossler was trying to move underneath, hit the 3/8 and bounced up a little bit and on in, and away he went.
And that's what the skid marks show down here on the front stretch. You get down a little bit too tight going into turn 1 too quickly, and the banking starts on that 3/8 mile, and bingo, you're off and you're airborne for a few feet there, and then all of a sudden when you come back down, the car could be in any kind of condition, and that's what happened to him as he went flying up into that turn number 1 wall.
And while they're great conditioned athletes also, Scott Ellsworth, it is very tiring the first race of the year. No matter what you do, you can lift the weights, you can run, you can jog, you can stand on your head, you can do yoga, and you can eat yogurt. But it doesn't help until you have a few races under your belt, and these guys do not. And arms get a little more tired. Obviously, out front, your arm's not near as tired. When you're seesawing with a bad handling car in the back of the pack, it's like driving about 7,000 miles in a dump truck. So they may be getting just a little bit tired from the back of the pack. The passes aren't quite as smooth as they'd like to be. Out front, we're saying we'll do a red flag at 95.
At the red. Also, we are noticing that the emergency vehicle is being brought out on the racetrack at this point, so we might have an injury to one of the drivers. We'll check with NASCAR scoring on that right now. Well, we'll go ahead at this point, since the red flag is coming out here on lap number 95. We'll take another break. You're listening to Live Auto Racing from Evergreen Speedway on the Evergreen Racing Network, the Valvoline 100 on KRKO.
On AM 1380, Good Time Oldies, KRKO.
Well, we are back here, and as we left you, we were under red flag conditions. We still are at this point. The cars have been stopped on the backstretch. Now, the last time we went to red flag, the cars weren't not brought to a full, complete stop and turned off the motors type thing. There we are this time, because we have 3 cars up in, make that 2 cars up into the turn 1 wall, and we have emergency medical crew out there on the scene right now. Let's go down to Ron Bennett and get a report.
Well, 81 car Martin Rossler, they are treating right now. I don't know what's going on up there. I'll get up there very shortly. But he has dedicated this season to someone he lost this last year, a sister, Diane Jean Thompson, and it's a tough thing to see him go home on a hook. But he has dedicated the season to Diane Jean Thompson.
Well, that is a tough one to handle when you lose somebody close to you and you dedicate a season and say, okay, I want to win a championship or whatever, but he will still finish in the top 20 probably with this few laps to go, and the other car's down quite a few laps, so he will not be that far down in the point standings at this point. Right now, we got Kelly Hart on the way to the scene. All right, Terry Buell, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're sitting on the backstretch. You're driving that number 73 car or that number 7 car. Now you turned it off. You've got a few minutes to reflect. What's going through your mind?
Well, first off, I'd be lucky in either case to be in either one of those cars out there. You know, you just have to go through your mind mentally. I'm sure they are what they have to do in the last 5 laps of competition. Formulate a plan for Gary. I'm sure it's just to put the pedal to the metal and take that checkered flag.
How do you hold off a Ron Eaton or a Dan Press making a move to the outside, making a move to the inside? Do you say, okay, I'm going to make them beat me the hard way and tuck that car down as tight as you can out of turn 4? Or do you keep the speed up and let it drift up the banking and see if they can beat you on the inside?
Well, as strong as Ron Eaton has been on the inside groove, I'm sure that Gary Lewis's crew has told him that he's been strong there, and he'll probably make him do it the hard way, around the outside. That's what I would say.
Of course, most of these teams have a spotter up here in the stand someplace or up at a high vantage point. So they've been telling their people on which line these cars have been taking for this last 5-lap shootout. And basically, that's what it's turned out to be, a 5-lap trophy dash. But there's an awful lot of cars involved in this trophy dash.
Sure. The other thing is you've got the 25 car, Dan Press, right behind Ron Eaton. He'll enter the picture also in this 5-lap shootout when we go back to green.
Kirk Rogers has not been able to keep up with the front group of cars on these restarts. I'm not sure if it's tire problem or a pushing problem. He and Sweatman have been having a great battle going on back there for the 3rd and 4th position. And then we move back to Bob Kerslake, who's also had a good run. And then Ken McMahon sits there right now in 6th position. And he's been moving up through the field. And, gentlemen, I'm really impressed with, not because just Ron Bennett's working our broadcast, but this young gentleman, if you've met him, he's a young gentleman, and maybe a future star in this business, Chad Bennett, limping home with the number 52 car.
And he has fought awfully hard. Each person that has come up on him for position, he has really raced hard, done a fine job.
And with a pushing car, I believe they said, too.
Right.
A little bit ill handling. He certainly stayed out of the way and just ran a great race. I look at Gary Lewis, and he knows that he has enough horsepower. It's just a matter, as Terry had said earlier, keeping the concentration and going into those corners. You've made about 100 and some laps already, a lot of them under the yellow, but it's so smooth if you do anything different, and I don't think he'll hit the back of the pack with the field diminished now the way it is, so he should have clear sailing with clean air the entire way. The battle for that second spot's going to be something else, because that's two guys that know exactly how to do it, and we'll watch Eaton and we'll watch Dan Press. Rogers falls back after they hit out of turn number 2.
Ron Bennett in the pits.
Martin Rossler is alert. They are putting a neck collar on him, probably going to get him out on a backboard and take him for observation, but he is alert and conscious.
Well, that's good news to hear that Martin did take a pretty good lick up there in turn number 1 wall as he got off into the turn 1 basically and went straight up into the wall, but he is okay. They are taking extra precautions, and that's the way it's done anymore today, making sure if there's any kind of pain whatsoever, put the neck brace on, put the back brace on, and we'll take them over and take some pictures and make sure everything is in the place that it belongs. He'll feel sore tomorrow, but I imagine that Martin will be okay.
Absolutely. They're just like the Timex watch. They take a look and they keep on ticking, and he'll move okay. Martin Rossler had a great run going. Tough break as he caught a little of that berm and then just lost it totally as we go down now to Kelly.
I have a question for Terry Buell, and Terry, that is, what happens to the cars when they're sitting? It's gotten a little cold, the air's gotten a little heavier, and they have to sit for 10, 15 minutes.
Well, the first problem that they might have is just simply restarting the car. And we can see now on the backstretch there are some push trucks behind several of the cars ready to push them away to start them so they don't have a restart problem. The carburetors getting cold, fuel cooling down could cause a problem on the restart, perhaps some backfiring. Yeah, we just have to wait and see.
Of course, they'll give them a few laps before we go back to green flag conditions, so they'll have a chance to, if they do foul a plug or whatever, possibly to get them heated up enough to unfoul a plug or whatever. They don't have the problem like we used to have, Gary. I remember when we went red flag when we used to do the Grand National Winston West races years ago when they were running the cast iron heads and so on and so forth. They shut these things down, and boy, half the time, half of them wouldn't start back up, or if they did, they'd throw a valve or swallow a valve, whatever the case may be. These new aluminum heads and aluminum engines seem to the temperature fluctuation doesn't seem to affect them as much as the older cars.
No, it certainly doesn't. Everything's a little bit smoother, and as technology has come to the forefront, why they don't have the problems in the engine compartment they used to have. The rods are much better now, so they take a bigger pounding. A lot of compression as they come flying out of there. You know that, but it's just a matter that it's still no fun to sit there with the car absolutely dead in the water at this point and then wonder about how it's going to fire up. What are we going to do? Are the tires going to get cool in one spot? We don't know that yet, but we're going to find out, and we're going to have a 5-lap trophy dash for big-time dollars for the Valvoline 100 as we go down to Kelly.
Ron Bennett. Yeah, this is Ron. A couple other things that happen with the cars, guys, is that the brakes is one of the biggest things. They'll cool down, and these hard brakes that they use on these cars have to be good and hot for them to work good. So they're going to be picking up a lot of rubber on the tires. These brakes are going to cool down. They've been getting hot, and they're going to go into turn 1 when they come down here for the green again, and they hit those binders as hard as these guys do. It's going to turn them a little bit sideways in some cases because it's a completely different thing that they've run 95 laps on than they're going to run these last 5.
Well, again, we're still working on extricating Martin Rossler from the car, and we understand that they're going to go ahead and take him across the street to the General Hospital, Valley General Hospital, for further evaluation. But he is awake and alert and talking to the rescue crew. They are just being very careful at this point, not risking further injury by removing Martin from the car. As soon as he is removed from the car, we will get the car off the racetrack, and we'll be back ready to for some green flag racing. Only 5 laps, so stay tuned right here at the Speedway, and stay tuned on KRKO radio. And you can see that the 22 car of Lou Miller, that car that was up into the wall, suffered major damage as it's on the flat toe being taking off onto pit road. So we'll go ahead, we'll take this break. You're listening to live auto racing here at Evergreen Speedway on the Evergreen Racing Network. The Valvoline 100 on KRKO.
Well, I'm walking over here to Louis Miller right now. I'm trying to get Ernie Cope so we can talk a little bit about the experiences that happen with these cars when you have to shut them down. You've made a little bit of a mistake there, guys. It's not much, but the car is owned by Dennis Ford out of Procraft, and Chad is driving for them. They build a beautiful car out in Graham, Washington. Louis Miller, they're just kind of getting his car unloaded over here. Louis, can I have a minute of your time here, buddy? You had a good run going. You kind of got caught up in something that wasn't of your doing.
Well, it's one of those things of being a rookie. I didn't really understand what was happening in front of me. I turned my car sideways and found out how hard concrete is.
You are okay, though.
I'm no worse off than I was before I came here.
Well, okay. Well, we won't touch that one. But you've been helping out a lot of guys. You're involved with 3 or 4 different cars here. Ernie Cope, Garrett Evans. Boy, you guys have all had a rough opening night.
Well, some days are like that. If I thought this was bad, some of the stuff that's happened to Garrett over the last couple of months is even worse, so I don't feel too bad about it. It's been fun racing at Monroe.
Well, it's good to have you here, Louis, and it's tough to see the car come home on the hook like this. I know you'll be back. Louis Miller from Yakima.
Oh, geez, Louis, that's great. I mean, twice tonight we've had a couple of drivers just absolutely total their cars, get out of them, and they say, yeah, it's great. I had fun, and I love being here at Evergreen Speedway. Does that say something?
Yeah, it says that they're easy to please, I would think. But there's more ways I could have fun than that. No, they've made a great run, and they're absolute tremendous sportsmen, and that's what you're going to have the entire year for the Winston NASCAR Northwest Tour. Excellent competition. You've watched one of the cars down a couple laps. He's ran right up with them for the last 30 or 40 laps and would have had a tremendous finish had he not had a problem earlier on where they had to pop the hood off and do the rest of that part on the 36 automobile of Steve Olson out of Eatonville, Washington. But that will happen. Still, he's going to have a high finish as a lot of people have dropped by and will go down to the pit.
Kelly?
We are standing by in the pits along with Ross Faunus, and Ross was one of the folks that helped put on the sprint car portion of our show tonight, the Doug James Memorial. This is the second year for the Doug James Memorial opening race here at Evergreen Speedway. Good car count. You've got to be pleased.
I'm real pleased. Really a good show tonight. Some real competitive racers out there tonight. I hope the fans up there enjoyed the race.
Now, you're going to be back with this group, not all of the cars, but with the NSRA later on this season here at Evergreen.
You bet, and looking forward to it.
What's the date?
July 30th.
Okay, July 30th. Come on out, see the open wheelers with the big wings right here at Evergreen Speedway, the Super Speedway of the West.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Kelly Hart, and that is part of our Western Nationals 250 weekend. We've got stock car racing, Superstock style, Northwest Tour, Southwest Tour, ASA style, and, of course, wing sprint cars. So we will have all kinds of figure eights, mini stocks, and bombers. It's going to be a great weekend of auto racing here. Now let's go down to Ron Bennett. Ron, you've got a special guest.
I have a very special guest and one hell of a race car driver when you're talking about Ernie Cope. Today was not his day, but Ernie, If you were out there, you've been running 95 hard laps, and now the car's sitting shut off on the back chute. What does that do first to the driver's mentality? How does he react to this?
Well, they know the tires are cold right now. They're just going to have to be careful for about 3 or 4 laps, and by the time it's going to be over. But I think Gary Lewis got some covered.
You think that Gary can hold off the wily veteran in that 7 car?
Yeah, if anyone's going to beat him, it would be Ron.
You've been in this situation before. If you were Gary Lewis sitting up there, what would you look for Eaton to do? I know this guy knows every trick in the book. This guy has written the book in a lot of cases. What are you looking for him to do?
I know Ron's the last guy to want behind me on this situation, but if Ron's going to get him, he's going to get him on the start. I think, knock him loose or something, getting in, but Ron will think it's something, he's the last guy to want behind me in that situation.
Well, I think that's one heck of a compliment. He's the last guy you'd want behind him in that situation because he'd have him the most worried. But there we have it from Ernie Cope, one of the finest drivers on the NASCAR Northwest Tour.
And we thank Ernie for that report. And speaking of Ernie, remember the Western Nationals 250 that we've been talking about? Well, his uncle, Derek Cope, will be here. It's been the first time. Derek's been back once for just a regular Saturday night show, but he has not been back for a major event because he's been tied up with Purelator and some other sponsorships on off weekends of the Winston Cup. Well, he told us last year, he says, I don't care what comes next year, I'm going to make sure that I'm available. Well, he did that, and he will be here as part of a great group of cars along with, and I tell you, this is a coup of all coups on the West Coast. We've got the Bandit's last ride, Harry Gant, in his farewell tour this season, only going to appear at 24 racetracks, and we're one of them. And then, of course, the man, he just loves to come back to the Northwest. He loves to fish while he's here and just has a good old time. And that's Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, formerly from Dawsonville. Bill Elliott will be here, always a big favorite on hand. And, of course, Toby Butler will be making another appearance in the Van Cleve Ford Thunderbird out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's go to Ron Bennett.
Toby Butler, I had the good fortune of going back to Rockingham this year. Toby was there. He was working with Glenn Jarrett on TNT, and I had a real good talk with him. And he wanted to thank all of his fans here at Monroe for all the cards and letters that they have sent him. And then he kind of laughed. He said, tell them next time, put money in them. But anyhow, he's having a good time back there, and I asked him if he was really serious about all this. He said, of course I am, Ron. He said, I've sold everything out there. He has bought a house in North Carolina. I asked him what his wife thought. He says, heck, I'm not going to ask her. But he doesn't have a right at this point. Rumor has it that he's going to do something on the Winston West circuit, which is kind of a surprise. I didn't get a chance to ask Althea about that. But maybe we're going to see him in the Winston West car, which is would be a different type of a thing for him. But he's back there working a little bit on TNT. He and Glenn Jarrett are very, very good friends. I asked Glenn what the hardest thing was for him to get used to back there, talking about Toby now, and he says, hell, he can't tell directions. The morning he left for Rockingham, he was supposed to take a right on one freeway. He took a left, and rather than 45 minutes up to the track, poor old Toby took 3.5 hours.
Good job, Ron. The ride that Toby Butler's going to have this year is Bill Stropp's car. That car was built for P.J. Jones. Jones doing something else this year, so they'll be flying him out from North Carolina to run the Winston West Series, and we'll see how well he does. It's a good car, a well-prepared car, and if you remember the name Stropp, he built so many of the off-road vehicles for P.J. Jones's dad, Parnelli. As we start to fire the cars up and there's movement and everybody seems to be getting off in the front group, no problem. We have the track cleared.
All
We're
right.
set to go as the lights are on the base car. Don will show them. Let them warm it up just momentarily. It dawns towards tomorrow.
It's getting that way as we're about 10 minutes after 11 o'clock as we're getting very close to the bewitching hour. It won't be very many hours, and I'm on an airplane out of here. So let's get this thing over with so I can get home and get packed and get out to the airport. As the lights are on, the Pontiac pace car, as I mentioned, they'll give them a couple of laps here to try to warm these engines back up and tires. They definitely don't want to send these guys off at breakneck speed towards turn number 1 on these cold tires, so they'll try to warm them up.
Sweatman goes to the pit.
Looks like maybe a left rear tire, right, maybe that a left front tire has gone down on the 11 car as the sparks fly out from the other side. What an unlucky break for the youngster out of Olympia, Washington.
That's what we alluded to, and of course that he sat there. They could have ran 30 laps in the time that he sat there. So obviously, that's going to cost him a high finishing position. One of the things that happens when you set them down, a tire that could have went down during the course of the day, but he might have had enough time as it went down slow enough for him to get going, could not pull out of that line to pit until we went back behind the pace car. Swetman will back out. He certainly won't lose a lap, but he'll have a long way to go and 5 laps to get back up in that top 5 where he was when he had the flat tire. Quick change by that crew.
Boy, I guess either did they change the tire, Ron or Kelly, or did they just put air in it?
Okay. I don't know. We don't know. We were down here on the front straightaway, asleep at the switch, so...
Okay, well, somebody would check with his crew because, boy, that was a great pit stop. They got him out with plenty of time to spare. That'll be interesting for the 250 coming up if that crew can change tires that quickly. So we'll find out for you from our crew. We just caught them napping a little bit there as they thought, well, this race is over with. We don't have to do any more reporting. Wrong. I'm always pulling it on them. So anyhow, it's Gary Lewis. Now scrubbing the tires as he weaves back and forth into turn number 1. Ron Eaton doing the same. Dan Press sits back there. Now there's another car that has been pretty strong. He again had to really use up a lot of tires coming on up through the field. Now those tires have had a chance to cool down. Does he have maybe another 6 or 7 good laps left in those tires? We'll have to wait and see with him. Kirk Rogers, maybe it's also been a tire problem with him with the cooling down. We'll see how well that car handles. Maybe now it'll tighten back up a little bit because he did have a little bit of a loose problem earlier before that red flag flew. We'll have to wait and see, and it won't be very long, as now they'll come back across the line as they work their way up on a turn at number 4, bobbing and weaving, scrubbing those tires off, trying to put some heat back in them as the lights are still on as we get the 1 lap to go signal from NASCAR Scoring next door. This time or by, the lights will go off. Gary Cressy, now what happens? 5 laps to go.
Absolutely, and they say yes. The next time around, part of that scrubbing, too, besides heating the tires, they like to get every little bit of pebble or rock that could puncture very, very thin walls on these, and they've run them hard for 95 big laps, so they will try to get that tire clean. They don't want to run over any debris from the accident. The crew has done a masterful job getting it cleared and clean. Up against the wall is a lot of speedy drive, but that's not in the racing surface. If you're up there, you're in trouble anyway. Lights are off, the pace car is off. Ron Eaton creeps up this time. He looks underneath. Again, Gary Lewis tries to slow the pace. We'll watch him very close. He's got him slowed down now. He gets back on the loud pedal, grabs a gear, pounds out of 3. Out of 4, he's down the long front chute. We'll go green with 5 laps to go. The Valvoline 100 is Gary Lewis into turn number 1.
Gary Lewis picks him up and puts him down as he heads off towards turn number 2. He's able to open it up by about 4 car lengths. He is flat flying. Ron Eaton now's got his hands full of Dan Press. Press dives down to the inside. He'll take Eaton into turn number 3. Does Press now have enough time to get caught back up with the number 73 of Gary Lewis? The fans are on their feet as he comes across the line. 96 down and 4 to go.
It's the Gary Lewis show as he drives away from Dan Press and Ron Eaton. Press absolutely fooling Ron Eaton. Tried him on the outside, got him on the inside. I don't know if there's enough time left as Lewis is smooth and strong. Out of turn 4 now, he'll head back to the stripe and pick up 3 laps to go.
Beautiful run for Gary Lewis. Not enough time in the way he's running down the backstretch. Out to about a 10-car length lead. Everybody else drops back. Kurt Rogers in 4th off the pace. Then back to Bob Kurzlik in the 26 car, the 3 of McMahon, the 52 of Chad Bennett. They're your top ones. They run across. They complete 98. And to Scott Ellsworth.
2 laps to go for Gary Lewis, the lawnmower shop number 73. He picks it up out of turn number 2, down the backstretch. Right now is the car. He's thinking, do I hear a knock? Do I feel a wobble? Hang on, automobile, because I come across the line this time. There's going to be 1 lap to go. Gary Lewis, Dan Press trying to reel him in. Here he comes. It will be a win the first time for Gary Lewis. 1/2 a lap to go.
Out of turn number 2, we follow our leader as Kenny McMahon has got into that 4th spot. Beautiful run, no problem. The leader goes into 3, lets it float momentarily. Out of 4, color and checkered, the long straight chute at the stripe. Gary Lewis, 73. Dan Press, then Ron Eaton in the third spot. In fourth, Kenny McMahon. In fifth goes Kirk Rogers. In sixth, in a great run, Kerslake. And in seventh, the 52 of Chad Bennett. Those are unofficial standings, but your winner, Gary Lewis. What a run for the opening for 1993 for the Valvoline 100 at the Super Speedway of the West, Evergreen Motor Speedway.
Well, Gary showed towards the end of the year, once they had the motor problems worked out on that 73 car last year on the tour, that he may be somebody to contend with this season. And boy, did he set them straight here tonight. He led right early on and has just done a masterful job. That car did not miss a lick all night long. It bobbed, it weaved. He pulled a super move in traffic as he was able to get underneath and take the lead about 25, 26 laps into the race. And he now pulls up the victory circle. A throng of people waited here in the cold and all just to give Gary a big welcome here. He's a big favorite, a track champion, and now we got a new favorite to cheer on the NASCAR Northwest Tour.
We get set as the crew is ready to watch him pop out of there. A long run, not tired, mighty, mighty happy. We're going to go down to the pits here momentarily.
All right, just a moment. Here he comes out of the car, ladies and gentlemen. A big hit. His first win in the NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour, Gary Lewis. And he's being congratulated by General Manager Tom Glithrow. And in just a moment, we'll get down trackside with Kelly Hart. Kelly, are you ready?
Tell you what, we're going to have to fight through the rest of the crew to get to talk to this young man.
A big throng of people, a real happy crew on that car. And, of course, the sponsor, Lawnmower Shop, Fast Signs, the Pontiac Firebird out of Bothell, Washington, Gary Lewis. And in just a moment, we'll stay with Kelly Hart. Kelly, as soon as you go, start talking, my friend. I know you've got to climb through a throng of people in order to get to the winner here.
They're getting some radio interviews for Gary right now. With the local press that's gathered here, so it's going to be a few moments if we want to shift on back.
Okay, well, we should get first priority since we are live on the radio, but we'll go ahead. Ron, go ahead.
I have Dan Press here. Dan, an impressive run from the back. They kind of put you down there and said, hey, we want you to win this thing from the back, Dan.
Well, I don't know about that, but we gave it everything we had. Gary Lewis ran a real good race there. He was a strong runner. But our car was working pretty good.
Pretty good is an understatement. Anytime you can come in the field like this and come all the way from the back on up into second, I'll tell you, congratulations are in order.
Thank you very much.
Have a big hand, please. Dan Press, Vader, Washington.
All right, Kelly Hart, you've got our winner.
Well, Gary, is that like the longest 5 laps in your life?
Yeah, it is. I was kind of getting tired of those red flags.
So tell us what it's like. This is your first tour victory, first of many, we imagine.
Well, I'm pretty dang happy. I didn't think it was going to happen tonight. I knew it would happen someday, but I'm glad it happened.
It timed in pretty quick, and you know this track. Tell us about the pass when you're able to put the 16 car down.
Well, we just got caught up in traffic, and I noticed the car on the outside was a little bit slower, and he decided to go that route, so I just stuck my nose in there, and it worked.
Did you know you had plenty of cars on all the restart?
Yeah.
Gary Lewis, there he is, folks, his first tour victory here at Evergreen.
Go ahead, Ron Bennett.
Well, he changed his number. No, he didn't change his number, but Speeds Hacker put white on there this time. Just looking at the toe-in on the car, you got caught up in that accident down into turn 1. It cost you.
At that wreck, and we just thought it was just tires, so we drove it real, real hard. Actually, when the tires started going away, I could drive it, but you can notice when I come off the turns, I was pushing the tires so bad that he could get underneath me.
Well, third is not too bad. You're going after a serious bid for the championship in 1994.
No, I'm afraid not. I'm going to run the first 2 races. I'm going to be in Hawaii for the second 2 races.
This guy's given up. How about a big hand for his 3rd place finish, Speeds Hacker?
Well, Ron Eaton saying that, nope, I'm going to miss a few races because, I guess the semi-retirement type thing. He's going to go to Hawaii for a few weeks, so he'll miss a couple of races. Great run, gentlemen. Terry Buell, your thoughts here on what happened here this evening?
Well, I think, like you say, a great run for Gary Lewis. It was coming, and I'm sure he's happy it came here at home. He'll celebrate on into the evening, I'm sure, and take the trophy home and add it to his collection.
Kelly Hart, your feelings?
Hey, I'll tell you what, we've been here for a lot of firsts in the last couple of years, but this one's especially gratifying to know the troubles that the 73 car went through last year, and then to start off 1994 with a victory. This is a big one, and I think, just as you guys have been mentioning all night long, a big turning point for the NASCAR Northwest Tour.
Ron Bennett, a wrap-up from you. Well, I have my headset off, so I'm not sure what you said to me, but I'll tell you, I thought it was a great race. I just talked with Gary Lewis and congratulated those guys. On a personal note, I want to thank those guys from the 73 car for all the parts they loaned us to put our car back together, and it was a great race. It's too bad we had so many cautions. It ended up like it did with the red flag at the end, but as always, the Super Speedway of the West, Evergreen has the best.
Well, thank you very much, Ron Bennett. Gary Cressy, you've been at all 10 of these things. Your opinion on this one?
Absolutely. With the sprinkling of the veterans, the rookies coming up, and then the local superstars, Tom Glithero, again, putting a tremendous amount of fans in the stands, and that's from him and Larry and the rest of that worked so hard for this. And I tell you what, I think they're going to buy a whole bunch of kerosene and keep the lamps lit a long time in Bothell tonight. My congratulations to Gary Lewis.
And as I said earlier in the broadcast, I think that this is the year that we start seeing some new kings reigning on the NASCAR Winston Northwest Tour. And we got a first-time winner here tonight, Gary Lewis. Well, I'd like to thank my broadcast crew, Ron Bennett, Kelly Hart, of course, Terry Buell, and my buddy over here, Gary Cressy, for helping me out. This is Scott Ellsworth saying thank you for being here, also listening on KRKO. We'd also like to thank Wayne Templeton and Moose Moran back at the station. For all of us here from Evergreen Speedway, have a great night. Please drive safely. Enjoy the rest of this great weekend here in the Northwest. You've been listening to Live Auto Racing on the Evergreen Racing Network from Evergreen Speedway, the Valvoline 100 on KRKO.
Well, the thing is, our front end's done. We just took the hood off, and the front tires are towed out at least 2 inches. The car got a bad push.